The start of a three-race stint to end the regular season rolls through the St. Louis Arch in the Midwest with playoff aspirations still on the line. Live from the virtual Worldwide Technology Raceway out in Madison, Illinois, we welcome you to the 12th race of Season 6 in the Sunoco Cup Series and coverage of the Gateway to the West 180 live on Podium Esports. Back here again for another week, and we're ready to get things going from this 1.2-mile track. We're alongside Joe Peak in the broadcast booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Ryan Bauer, our producer, as always, using the cameras provided by Dougie Beer. Joe, we reach Gateway now with only a handful of races left in this Sunoco Cup Series regular season. Many chances still for some of those hopefuls to get into the playoffs for 2023. And we reach a very interesting track, two different ends. You got to drive it, and we're probably going to expect a lot of sideways action and probably some beating and banging along the way.
Yeah, and this is an interesting one because it's almost like Martinsville and Darlington had a baby. So it's got those long straights, tight turns, but as you said, they're asymmetrical. So you're never really going to get the car comfortable on both sides. But this is that good opportunity for those that are more adaptable and more able to work with the car when it's not in its sweet spot to shine tonight, I think.
That's definitely true, and since we're getting down to crunch time, we might see some weird things happen at a track that is considered an oddball by many in this field. Speaking of our 2023 schedule, Joe Peak, this is what we have lined up. We have crossed out everything up until tonight, Worldwide Technology Raceway, but then we visit our last road course before the playoffs, Watkins Glen up in New York. Then we revisit Daytona International Speedway for the end of the regular season, and then comes playoff time. I mean, chances are very slim at this point. Gotta make the most of what you got in these three very different tracks.
Yeah, and for those on the outside looking in, and we're hoping for something where they could have, your typical expected stuff to allow you to try and work your way in. Well, unfortunately, they're not going to get that because we've got, like you said, the oddball tonight, then the road course, which is very much a specialist thing, and then Daytona to wrap it up, which is always going to be, a bit random. So this is going to throw everybody for a loop before we head off into the postseason.
And it's only going to significantly shake up the playoff standings. Back to 16th, Dakota Curtis holds that last playoff spot by only 6 points to the number 47 of Isaac Mock. So that gap either might close in and things might change drastically by the time we get to Daytona in a couple of weeks' time. One of those drivers that is eager to get into the playoffs for 2023 is the driver of the number 75. We bring in Charles Feltz. And Charles, first of all, just walk us through Gateway. You've had a couple of laps on your belt. What does it take to drive around this track, and what are the challenges that you've seen so far?
Well, for me, my biggest challenge, like all of season, which y'all have been watching, I need to qualify better. I feel like I'm not a top tier driver or anything, but I'm sick of starting in the back and having to work myself up. So I need to run a good qualifying lap. This one's a little tricky because I think I underdrive the car on my qualifying session. But now I don't want to overdrive it. So if I could get a good qual, I feel comfortable in my brake points, and I feel comfortable with my shifting points. I have just got to do better at qualifying in general as far as my season has gone, fellas.
And you talk about trying to make the most out of the qualifying effort. Do you think here at Gateway that track position is going to be key? Do you reckon it's probably going to be a little harder to pass than most of the tracks we've seen on the schedule?
I do feel track position. In general, track position is always a thing, but I feel here, although we're not seeing it in the real world race today, I think with this track not being a current scan, if you will, I think it is going to be tough to pass here. I don't know if that outside is going to work like on other tracks or like it has today in the real race. So yeah, I need to try and lay something down that I can work with, so I'm not starting from the back.
Well, hopefully it all works for you. Final question before we let you go and get focused for qualifying in just a couple of moments. I know you're part of Big Fish Motorsports. They're an affiliate of the SheriffStrafe.com racing team. Jesse Whittington getting his first career win just a week ago at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So what was the atmosphere like for you and the voice chat, being communication, and just the entire atmosphere after the race was over?
Well, after the race, it was obviously it was incredible. That was a race win for Jesse, long time coming. Everybody was so happy for him. But I love being affiliated with SheriffStraight.com Racing, Jesse's team, and Logan with Big Fish Barbecue. He's a longtime friend and my team owner, if you will. We're a tight group. So there's a lot of communication strategy, and we really support each other. So right before the race ended, it was kind of quiet because we were just letting Jesse do his thing. But afterwards, yeah, it was off the chain, and it really showed all the camaraderie that we have between the two teams and the relationship that we all have together.
Some awesome moments there just a week ago at Charlotte for you and SheriffStrafe.com Racing and the entire team all together. Hopefully we see you in victory lane tonight, maybe soon enough in 2023. Chuck, thank you for joining us, and best of luck on track tonight.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for what you do for the league. Appreciate it, guys.
That is the driver of the 75, Chuck Phelps, who currently 31st on the standings. We'll talk to another driver affiliated with the SheriffStrafe.com Racing team, and that is the number 26 of Logan Sturgeon. Logan, first of all, thank you for joining us. And just like I asked Chuck a couple of moments ago, what have been your thoughts about Gateway as we roll into tonight's race, and what have you felt behind the wheel of the car in practice so far?
Well, first off, thanks for having me tonight, guys. Well, I came into this thinking that I had good speed, but looking at the practice board, not so much. But luckily, last year when we were here, I had good long run speed, just outside of the top 10. So hopefully, if we get long green flag runs, especially in the third stage, I'll have a car that can at least contend for like a top 10. This track is tricky. It's like Darlington and New Hampshire had a kid. Both ends of the track are completely different, and with a lot of the downshifting and upshifting, I think it's going to be easy for somebody to make a mistake, downshift too early, and get into some trouble.
So that makes it 2 times on the broadcast so far. We've had those merging track baby jokes so far to describe Gateway. Joe Peak talked about it when we opened the show. But Logan, I know you weren't here just a week ago when we raced at Charlotte because you were at Charlotte Motor Speedway. You were there for the Coca-Cola 600. So how good's it to feel to come off the Charlotte race a couple of days ago and to finally be back in the Sunoco Cup Series?
Yeah, I'm glad. We actually we watched the broadcast Sunday night in our hotel room because it just nonstop rained. So we definitely I was disappointed I missed the race, but I'm glad to be back. So I got the paint that I would have ran last week on. I got all the sponsors on it tonight. I got Big Fish Barbecue, Sheriff Strafe Racing, and Meat Church Barbecue. Also, I have on the name rail, I have my dad. He was Air Force in Vietnam, and unfortunately, he passed away in November, right before Thanksgiving. So it's going to be it's hard, but it's good to have him on the car tonight.
We send our well wishes to you, Logan. And final question before we send you off for qualifying. SheriffStraight.com, an outstanding moment a week ago when Jesse Whittington got his win. What does it tell you about the momentum that this team is carrying now into the playoffs? And what does it say about your mindset with this team moving forward as well?
Man, it gets me excited. This team has come a long way. I remember last year when I joined, it was Redline Racing at the time. We were fighting for top 20s and top 15s, and that was a win for us. And now I feel like we're me, Jesse, and Richard. We're up there contending every week. We've had bad luck throughout the season, so seeing Jesse be able to finally bring that home, especially after the Darlington race, it was only a matter of time when Jesse got a win, and I'm hoping to join him here shortly.
All right, well, hopefully you do. A lot of momentum riding with you and SheriffStrafe.com Racing overall. Logan, of course, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck as we get ready for Gateway in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
So that is Logan Sturgeon in the number 26, currently 20th on the practice charts right now, but of course still a qualifying session to go over. Joe Peak, we have been monitoring this over the past couple of weeks, and we'll monitor it again at Gateway, the Big Bracket Challenge, which offers $200 to the winner of it all by the end of the regular season at Daytona in a couple of weeks. And we've got, I'd say, Joe, our Elite Eights, if we're going to go by March Madness references. We've got a couple of interesting names there. Parker Bland, Justin Erb, Steven Stempien, Whittington, our winner from last week, and Dakota Curtis, who I think is going to go through a bye week. Very lucky for him, but going to move forward, and things are going to get a little more contentious on track, not only for just a playoff spot, but for this big bracket challenge too.
Absolutely. It's getting down to it here. So you really got to hope that you can keep performing, because it's just going to get harder and harder as you go, as the competition increases. And once you get to that finale, at least it gets simple, because you only have one person to worry about.
And at Daytona, I mean, one spot could mean the difference between winning and losing, and that might also mean the difference between those $200 or maybe just missing out on the big bracket challenge win. Joe, walk us through Worldwide Technology Raceway, the gateway to the West, as they would call it, not that far off from St. Louis downtown proper, but it's a really, really tough track to drive.
Yeah, this above view really shows you what I was talking about. Long straightaways compared to how sharp these corners are. And 9 degrees and 11 degrees. So not only are they two different radii, but they're two different sets of banking on each side as well. And the other unique thing is that you've got curbs down at the bottom of it. And so you need to be considerate of that, because they could potentially upset the car if you get a little bit greedy. But we'll have to watch and see who's going to run where, because usually this is kind of a bottom feeder track, but who knows? Maybe it'll start to evolve and it'll start to drift up a little.
And also, one factor that we've yet to talk about that is going to be notable here at Gateway is shifting. You're going to see a lot of drivers bump down a couple of gears in the middle of the corners, most notably in 1 and 2, where things are just a little bit slower. And fun little nugget from our production man himself, Ryan Bauer. He says that it's only 17 minutes driving from this track in sim and in real life to where he was originally from. So pretty cool as we move forward into qualifying, which now, as the timer starting to tick down, we'll cover that in just a couple of moments. We'll get through our race analysis first. 150 laps here from Worldwide Technology Raceway, 187.5 miles, 301.8 kilometers, and our stages are broken up 40 apiece in stages 1 and 2, and then our final sprint 70 laps all the way to the checkered flag. Of course, as always, we have 3 green white checkered attempts if we need to extend this race past the scheduled distance. No fast repairs are awarded to the drivers, and everybody has a fixed setup, so it's all down to just what you can do behind the wheel. And Joe, we talked about it already with Chuck Feltz and maybe a little with Logan Sturgeon. Track position is going to matter a lot, and part of that is probably going to add some motivation to these drivers in qualifying as it's starting to kick off. And here's Chris Shoemaker in turns 1 and 2.
Qualifying, and then it also makes strategy really tricky, we have to remember, because yes, I'm sure that this is going to be a place that'll eat up the tires quite a bit, because it's not that steep of banking around here. But if you give up that track position hoping to try and undercut, well, you may have shot yourself in the foot. You kind of have to try and wait it out and gut it out and hope that that you can survive on the older tires and not give up that track position out there, while also avoiding getting undercut by your rivals if everybody does come in similarly. That's assuming if we get any sort of green flag stops out there. But until we reach that point, you do have to be very cognizant of what you're doing in comparison to your rivals, just so that you don't miss out. As looks like we've only got a couple drivers having put some laps in, and you definitely don't want to be doing that too much, or you'll chew up the rears there with that big slide off of turn 2.
Yeah, Brad Fulham kicking out the rear end out of turn 2, and he's already getting a 3 and 4. So far, he has the fastest lap, but like you said, Joe, I mean, barely any drivers have put in qualifying times. Either some of them are just waiting for the track to cool down a little bit, or just biding their time and being patient. It is very hot here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Track temp at 109 degrees Fahrenheit. So any little advantage you can get by cooling the tires and therefore having the track cooled by just the weather progressing, it's going to matter, and it is going to really pay dividends in terms of lap time. Here's Justin Urban, the number 20 machine, the DeWalt colors, based off of what Christopher Bell runs in the Cup Series these days. Going to cross the line, and one of our new qualifying drivers here this time through. We do have Ryan Kendall, Dustin Reese, Kevin Hurley among those that are still on pit road, but Justin Erb appears to be one of the only ones on track right now.
Yeah, So he's out there, and everybody else pretty much just waiting. I do see a couple others that look like they're getting warmed up and getting ready to go on their first flyer. But Justin, on that first lap, right now our marker is a 34.5 up at the pole position for Fulham. So let's see what he's got underneath him as he crosses the first time at full tilt. 34.6. That's going to put him up in the top 2 rows.
And that is going to be 4th place right now for Justin Erb as it stands. Here's Ryan Kendall in the 68. He'll cross the line. He's getting ready for his first official qualifying lap. There's only 2 awarded to these drivers, much like it is at every other track here in this 2023 schedule. So we'll see what Ryan Kendall could do in his number 68 car. And looking at the drivers in this field is making me think of all of the possibilities, Joe, that we have for these guys to get into the playoffs for this year. We do have a total of 9 different winners in 2023. So safe to say, a lot of diversity in the winners that we've had so far. And then you look at the playoff standings, guys like Ryan Kendall, who are beneath the top 20, a big run and possibly a win tonight from Gateway could turn things around. And then you look at guys like Joe Sanchez, who's missing his 2nd straight week in a row, and he's already 12th on the standings, dropped 4 from last week and might drop even more tonight.
I think this is the part of the season where you're going to see more gambling, more moves of desperation to try and seal that win. Or if you're in a hard fight to try and sneak into that top 16, you're going to see guys doing that. So expect the intensity to just be bumped up a notch. Now, they do have a couple races after this, naturally. As we said, this is the start of the final 3 before we head into the postseason. So it's not going to be at its peak quite yet, but those that know, especially those I think that are way far down the order, they're the ones that have pretty much nothing to lose. They're not going to earn their way in on points, so they've got to go for that all or nothing win.
And desperation is really going to seep through the cracks in those final couple of races. You watched Charles Phelps hit the outside wall there in 3 and 4. He downshifted, tried to save the car from touching the safer barrier, and unfortunately, it did not work. And it looks like that 75 is going to abort the rest of his qualifying run. He's going to be 15th right now with the fastest time at a 34.877, and we may have had our top driver at top of the charts in the 31 of Colin Forster, the rookie driver, currently at a 34.368. And Forster, one of those drivers, Joe, that we've seen so great this season without a win. Going to be looking for his first. This here's Gary Sexton in the 13. And Joe, there's some different colors here. That's for a reason. Mario Miranda, unfortunately, not here tonight at Gateway. So the 13, I guess, just picking up the sponsorship money for this week and running the Twisted Tech Ford Mustang tonight.
Car does look a little bit sketchy coming off of 2. I think we're going to be seeing that a lot tonight, if I'm honest. But yeah, that's the one nice thing about sim racing, is that while in the real world there's all kinds of contracts and headaches in that realm, here it's usually a lot easier and simpler to just say, hey, can you run my sponsor tonight, get them some exposure. And Sexton, like a good friend, is going to oblige.
Just like a good neighbor. The 13, Sexton, going to cross the line. His first time, 34.716. So that should put him right behind Travis Stevens, and that is good enough for 13th. New driver at the top of the board, the 94, Jesse Whittington. And how about that, Joe, the winner from last week? Well, never mind. Ross Harlow at the top, 34.1. Fastest time for the 5.
And it's not due to the weather coming down, to be honest. It's about a degree hotter, 110 Fahrenheit now on the track surface. So it could be a case of drivers just watching and waiting. Now, they can't actually watch each other qualify, but they can get a sense of the time, so they know what's possible. And when you have that marker, sometimes it makes it a little bit easier to try and see what's doable out there. So Aaron Adcock going to be the latest, but he is not going to put himself all that high up, and it's still Harlow up at the front by about 200, Harlow up in front by about 600ths of a second.
And he still on top of the charts right in front of Lawson Peel, the defending series champion, able to take over second for the moment at a 34.189. Here's Warren Kyle Keith, the driver who finished in second place at Charlotte Motor Speedway 1 week ago, bearing the Exalta 24 colors like we usually see him do for SKM week in and week out. Has lows on the front bumper and almost tagging the wall there at a turn 2, but we'll visit turns 3 and 4. And it's somewhat interesting to see the way the drivers have sort of filed out in qualifying, because if you remember the practice charts, it was Austin Shoemaker and Steven Stempien locking out the front row theoretically, and now they're being split by many drivers in the field that have already turned the intensity up and some of the pace in qualifying. We'll take things trackside and bring you your starting grid for tonight's Gateway to the West 180 from the Worldwide Technology Raceway in Madison, Illinois. Ross Harlow, the winner from Richmond earlier this year, will start it on pole at a 34.128. He's got Lawson Peel, the defending champion, on his outside. Both of them the first two to see the green flag. Last week's winner, Jesse Whittington, will look to be the first driver this season to go 2 in a row. He'll start inside third. Steven Stempien in the 81, a lover of these old and abrasive tracks, will start on the outside in P4. Alex Muscarella for SKM on the 48 will start inside the top 5, and Austin Shoemaker showed a lot of promise in practice. We'll see if he can step it up come race time. Joseph Mohar with a nice qualifying effort for SK Sim Racing in the 46. He is 7th, and rookie sensation Colin Forrester for Fast Banana will round out your top 8. Then go the final 2 in our top 10. Logan Sturgeon in the 26 and Wyatt Brackett for Fast Banana in the 30 car.
Brandon Banks will start from 11th. Justin Erb, who hasn't managed to get a win yet but is above the cut line, will start from 12th. Brad Fulham will start P13, followed by Warren Kyle Keith, as we saw one of the last set of time out there. We've got Chris Shoemaker on the inside of the next row, flanked by Ryan Kendall, and Isaac Mock will be 17th, followed by Curtis Kelly, P18. Then in row 10, it's Bill Schoonover and Dakota Curtis.
Travis Stevens rolls off from 21st tonight on the grid. Gary Sexton with Miranda's Twisted Tech colors. He brings the Ford Mustang to 22nd when we drop the green. Richard Swavely and Parker Bland, the 32 and the 18, doubled up in row number 12 before you find Kevin Hurley starting 25th in the 25 car. Judd Danielson in the 85 alongside him in 26. Doubled up in row number 14. Kip Easley in the 8 car, looking to bring the 3 Chi colors, much like Kyle Busch did earlier today, to victory lane from Gateway. Aaron Adcock in the 23 is P28. Austin Reedy with a very, very low qualifying time. He starts 29th, and Chuck Phelps will round out your top 30. Then go the final handful in our field tonight. James Kunkel, Garrett Brown in row number 16. Ray Rogers, Dustin Reeves, Chris Progar, and Justin Miller round out our 36 car field. And we just had word from race control, Dakota Curtis, Ryan Kendall, Joe given EOLs to start.
And that's not the tracker we want that to happen. It'd be much better to have that once we get to Daytona, where you've got opportunities to try and charge your way back forward tonight. And at Watkins Glen, these EOLs are going to be extra painful.
Yeah, that's true. Track position, very key at a track like Gateway, where some have said it is rather tough to pass. Steven Stempien starts on the outside of row number 2. He is our previous winner from Gateway. The man who finished in second behind him in season 5 was the 12 car, Lawson Peel. 3rd car was Ross Harlow in that entire race. And we'll see if we find history repeating itself, or whether we find somebody to break through and make history of their own. Green flag in the air. The Gateway to the West 180 is green from Gateway. for third brewing up, and we almost saw Lawson Peel take control of the lead out of turn 4 to complete lap number 1. Whittington sending it deep in the corner. He'll bring the 81 back to the bottom. Stepien will clear for that third spot, but so far Ross Harlow leads a clean and green field back to turn 3, lap number 2.
Yeah, a little bit of a peek inside by the 12 there on the first lap, but he's going to slot into line now. Someone drifting up a little bit higher up back there. That looks like Colin Forrester, who's going to try a little bit of a higher line. Expect them to be running about a lane off there down into 1 and 2. You don't want to be completely shallow. It's just too tight of a corner, and you want to use that banking. And there you can see them all kind of riding up a little bit high, not covering off the very bottom. 14, though, of Shoemaker drifting a little close to that safer barrier.
And we already saw that 94 of Whittington almost about going to the outside wall if he had pushed that Camaro further up the hill. These cars really do not like to turn under those fixed setups. They're very tight naturally, so you really have to make sure you have the nose planted in the middle of the corner, especially in 1 and 2 where the speeds are so low and where the exit of the corner matters so much. On board with Whittington, who finally broke through and got his win at Charlotte Motor Speedway last week. And Joe, what an emotion-filled weekend for that 94 car of Whittington, who saw his race stripped away from him at Darlington. It felt like he was gonna get that win, and then responded at Charlotte in the best way possible. Dominated that last stint, held his spot up front, and got that win to lock him into the playoffs. Outstanding emotions by not only himself behind the wheel, but for the entire SheriffStrafe.com racing team. They were waiting for that moment for so long, and as we watch the battle for the lead develop, Steven Stepien looking on the inside of our pole sitter for turn 1.
It already made it past Peel, and he's making pretty short work of these guys. Now, thing is, sometimes you got to watch out for those tires in the long term here. And him battling like this, he may be using them up. Maybe that's why he's having an easier time to try and sneak by. We'll see. And it looks like he's going to finish the job here in 3 and 4. And the 12's going to try and take advantage of it. Harlow left the door open a little bit.
He's trying to pinch that 12 car in turns 3 and 4, but it is not going to fully deny Peel, at least for the moment. That 12 was going to dive it back for turn 1. Harlow trying to take preventative measure. He's going to chase it up the track, and that 12 might have the opportunity to dive in for second, and that is a sight that is beautiful on the back bumper of the 81. He would love to see them go side by side for as many laps as possible. He wants to pull away. Battle still on for second, back to turn 3.
Whittington's got a front row seat to all this too, but he's just kind of patiently waiting back here. He's not trying to charge up on them as they run side by side. So I think he's giving them room just to kind of see how this plays out between them. This is actually really good because this can give you some valuable information on what's possible out there in some of the side-by-side racing, which way to approach it depending on what side you're stuck on.
And also as well, how much tire you're willing to waste going side by side in certain parts of this track, because you don't want to either hit the outside wall or make contact with another driver. Harlow backs out of this fight for now, but might just roll around to that main card in the rest of this run as it pans out. First 7 laps green so far from Worldwide Technology Raceway. Joseph Mahar eyeing in on the number 31 of Colin Forrester. This is a potential look for 6th on the racetrack, and you watch how that 46 dives up the track and then goes all the way back down to get the arc. And we talked about shifting, Joe, which is very different here compared to a lot of other tracks, because you're diving into 3rd gear in the middle of 1 and 2 in most cases, just because the revs are so low. It's such a big factor into the way these drivers have to manage this track, and it can really play a factor because you don't really touch the shifter all too much at most other venues, but here you really have to be on it.
Exactly, and a lot of times you'll see the drivers that are good at road courses kind of wake up here and suddenly shine once again, just because that is such a distinct skill that isn't practiced a lot at most ovals. Richard Swavely, a little bit farther down, has got some work to do. In fact, he's got a couple of rows in front of him that's still racing side by side. Travis Stevens going to lose out and slot in front of him. And I think, in fact, the 23, it looks like, might give it up a little bit. That's Aaron Adcock down to the bottom. Nope, he's going to get a little bit of help getting that car turned. Thankfully, he catches it.
And so did the 96 of Reedy. I was about to mention, he's in this entire group, and he almost about had his car completely turned around Reedy started tonight in 29th and is now up to 23rd on the racetrack. The winner of the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Now looking onto the throwback car of the 25, Kevin Hurley. That is for 22nd. Some decent progress to start for Reedy so far, Joe. But, I mean, it takes so much work to get around cars here at Gateway that maybe by the end of this run, if it stays green, his tires might be completely toast.
And to tell you just kind of what the situation is, not having that track position. Remember, Ryan Kendall qualified 16th. He's only just now fighting for 33rd here on lap 11. So he's having a tough time making up spots here, despite having what should be pretty good pace over everybody else.
And here you ride on board with the TOW Racing driver, Parker Blanche. He tries to hold on to that 20th spot. Bill Schoonover, though, help from the 96 entering turn 3. And boy, this is a brigade of Chevy Camaros going for the corner. Schoonover slides it way up on the banking, and here comes Reedy for the challenge. Almost contact between the two, and Hurley will keep the door open. There's the 96 for the attack. Will push Bland into turn 1 and almost about spun her around.
Yeah, and I think the 96, whoa, and unfortunately 18 is going to get up into the wall. 96 brushed the wall. Meanwhile, Kevin Hurley says, thanks, you two just...
car around. Travis Stevens in trouble. The exit of turn 2, that is Kip Easley involved as well. And a pillow of smoke. It looks like those two were the only ones involved. Our first caution thrown at lap 12 in our first stage here from Gateway. And here's how it all happened. Joe Pekin and Bill Schoonover at the very top of this, 3 wide in turn 2.
Yeah, and Travis Stevens is going to be the one that gets turned around by Kip Easley there. And a little bit of help on the 8, honestly, it looked like. That was Ray Rogers that kind of finished the 8 off and turned him around. But this kind of comes down to what we're talking about earlier. You mentioned the cars wanting to try and square off the exit to get a better launch. Whoa, Progar. Does he save it? Nice job.
Yes.
But I was going to say, because you kind of want to chop down like that, the 8, who thought he was underneath, was wanting to drift up a little bit, but they kind of met in the middle. And that's what caused that turnaround, because the 2 was just trying his best to just straight line that exit.
And that's key at turn 2 at Gateway, where a lot of drivers want to diamond the corner, and the fact that they slide up at the entrance of turn 1, they go in the apex kind of a couple lanes or maybe half a lane up, and then they dive all the way back down. And you're right, just merged at the wrong time. Ray Rogers didn't really have enough time to check up for that incident, got into the back bumper, and what an avoidance by Chris Progar. Avoided all sorts of damage that he could have picked up on his 7 car. That is a change in the underwear needed by pit road. And speaking of pit road, 14 laps in, do you expect, Joe, for anybody to come in, or is this way too early to waste a set?
Well, they've already gone by pit entry, and I only see 2 drivers in. I would think that pit lane would have already been open by now. So if that's the case, everybody seems to be trying to hold those close to their chest.
Well, it looks like everybody wants to keep their tire sets intact. And one thing that we'll also note about Gateway is its rather interesting entrance to pit road. It's a access road entering turn 3. We'll talk to the 7 of Chris Progar. And Chris, I don't think I need to do any explanation. What happened for your perspective? You about missed that wreck.
I did miss the wreck. I just decided to go through the grass, get loose, and spin out myself.
And talk to us about just the way it's been able to drive this car, and the way you've had to experience it all. I know it hasn't really been that long, only 14 laps, but from what you've experienced, what if you felt behind the wheel?
I mean, it's all right. It's tight, especially when you got a car on the outside. So, like, I was doing a lot of side-by-side with Chuck there, and it just got so tight with him. You couldn't drive off the way you wanted to. So...
All right, well, we'll wish you the best of luck. We're going to get the 1 to green here, so we'll get the green next time by. Best of luck on the restart, and what an avoidance there. That was awesome to watch.
Thank you.
Chris Progar in the 7, will restart in the 30th place position. Him and Chuck Phelps sharing that 15th row. But to look back up front, Steven Stempien has taken control of this race outright, but can he be defeated when we get this first restart? It's all a matter of time. Lawson Peel on the inside of row 1. Jesse Whittington and Ross Harlow, those two give support to the drivers in the lead in row number 2. Stempien led 117 laps in this race last season, and here's a look at the entire driver wall, including Stempien, that third car on the top row. We'll see what he can do when we drop the green flag. Pace car is down. The gateway to the west 180 is back underway.
Watch out for Kelly and Reedy, honestly. They are both up 8 positions since the start, so they're looking really strong here, even though they might not be at the front. Don't give it too long. Well, don't give it too long before caution, because we got another one right away.
And it is Kip Easley, the one who spun around, the 8 car, finding some trouble, and it started with somewhat of a checkup on the restart. So the 3G car not having a good time right now. You'll take a look at how this all started. A rather peculiar incident, Joe Peak. What happened here?
Well, like you said, a checkup, but usually that's right at the restart. This was down into turn 1, had to take evasive action. That unsettled the car. It does look like there was maybe a little bit of a tip that finished things off, and Kip wound up completely in the wall. So that's going to be some damage there. It doesn't look like a meatball flag has been given. There, ooh, does the 3 also get a bit of damage here? Good save. Nice catch on that drift.
That's a very hard thing to do with the next-gen car, is keep it straight when it's in the middle of a slide. Here's Justin Miller, who was not expecting this to happen in front of him, and gets a piece of that number 8 car. And speaking of Keep Easily, he has hit the pit lane, so one of the first drivers to come in officially for service, the other one being Travis Stevens in the 2, who pitted just before we had that recent restart, and that 8 car already out of his box, so he will avoid being put a lap down, I believe, for the most part. He is going to be very close, so I think might just be flirting with being a lap down. So far he has scored as being the first driver 1 lap behind the leader, so if we do get another caution, we should see that 8 car get back up and running on the lead lap. And Stempien really has been a force so far in this race, and it really didn't take him long, Joe, at all. A lot of aggression early has paid off.
Yeah, up to the lead, hasn't really given it away since then. And the good thing for Steven, these cautions actually help him out. That's a lot less he's got to worry about the tires here until we get to the first stage being over. So Stempien's basically just kind of getting to preserve them a little bit, even though he may have wasted some of them trying to get his way to the front. But the less time he has to play defense is a lot easier job for him to get those points.
Yeah, that's true. Has a little bit of some time to relax just for a moment. We're under caution at lap number 18. We'll bring in Steven Stempien. And Steven, you dominated this race last season, so no question you have a lot of momentum going in a Gateway. I know you love these old and abrasive tracks. I mean, how has this track been treating you so far in this race? I know you've got the lead, so this car is very fast.
Yeah, like you said, I just dominated last time. I led 100 laps or whatever. I think I swept all the stages, won the race. But I love the track, man. It reminds me of my home track, turn 1 and 2 in New Hampshire, and then one of my favorite tracks in Phoenix in 3 and 4. So, I like both those tracks, and this track just has a combination of both of them. So, and Joe, I have to disagree with you. I did not use up my stuff. I was taking it easy, just making some passes.
Well, we know you love these types of tracks, and so far it's been really doing you well. On this restart here, any mindset other than just holding the fort down and keeping the race lead?
Yeah, just holding the fort down, keep the clean air. I know I got the speed here, so I'm just going to stay out front and, hit my marks, and hopefully we'll be talking to you later in victory lane. We'll see what happens.
Alrighty, looking to stay controlling Gateway in the Sunoco Cup Series, the winner from Season 5. Steven, thank you for joining us. Best of luck on the restart.
Thanks, guys.
So Stempien takes up the outside line in row number 1. Pace car will step down to the entrance of the pit lane. Jesse Whittington in row number 1. We'll see how quick he can react to that 81's jump as they will enter the restart zone. And a bit of a sluggish start as the 81 catches everyone off guard. Lap 20 green.
Oof, Jesse Whittington not looking good there, falling back, but the 5's actually going to stick his nose in. But you'll see a good example here of what I'm talking about. The bottom, the very, very bottom, doesn't usually work out. Let's see if he can get the launch. Nope, it's just not there. Stempion's got a bit of an advantage, but it's not done.
And that 5 car is going to side draft Stempien going into turn 3, and he got a little slick entering turn 2. That car kicked out just a little bit. And how about Austin Shoemaker stepping into the podium position? He led practice before we got into qualifying. This 14 has a lot of pace, and now it's starting to get noticed. Shoemaker in a third. Harlow backs out, and the 81 stays in control as the 5 dives back for the bottom.
Ooh, Stempien went a little too deep there into 1 and 2. He gave up too much time. I don't know if he was trying to square it off a little more, but that left him vulnerable. And now Ross Harlow's actually got a realistic chance of sealing this up.
He'll try and dive it into turn 3, but the 81 has the advantage of just pinching him down to that white curbing, which should unsettle the car if you get your left sides on it. We are still gridlocked, even for the race lead. Back to turn 1. The showdown continues. The 81 will dive forward ahead of the 5. He's got control of the lead. Contact and a bump and run. The 5 is trying to rattle Stempien right now.
Just a reminder, he's there, but all's fair right there. They both get away with it. That was a much more controlled dive into the first corner. I wonder if maybe that's what Steven was trying to do that first time, was just try and chuck it in so that he could get the track position and hold him off on the latter half, and just got a little over ambitious. Whatever the case, he's got it back now. But yeah, I'd watch out for Austin Shoemaker. Like you said, in the practice, he was looking like a real threat.
He was, and he was faster than that 81. Not by that much, but it was noticeable. And so the 14 has the pleasure of watching these two go at it for the lead, and maybe use up their stuff just a little bit before we get to the end of stage number 1. And that 14, you watch that third car there, that Ford Mustang, currently running around the inside line. I think things have settled out, but it looks like Lawson Peel has got a good run off of 4. He'll dive on the inside, and we've got our tussle for third place.
Yep. Looks like, though, Peel's got enough of a run, and he's got that desired inside line that he's going to be able to slide through. So the 14 doesn't really have an answer. I wouldn't fight it too hard at this stage, and he just kind of lets him go. For the most part, it does look relatively single file through most of the pack.
And it looks like our first side-by-side battle is pretty far down the running order. You might have to look for 17th Austin Reedy against Brad Fulham in the middle of 3 and 4, and that 96 continues his trek to the front after starting in 29th position, on board with the tied Camaro of the number 31 Colin Forster, the rookie driver who has performed so well this season. And so far, Joe Peak, one of the highest drivers in the point standings without a win. And Forrester really trying to maximize his advantages so far, as there's Brandon Banks up ahead of the road of Reedy, who has stepped into his position and now on board with Gary Sexton, who currently rides 11th. Caution flag is out. Problems between the 7 and the 6. Dustin Reeves and Chris Progar involved on the outside wall, turn 3.
Progar already had his scare, and unfortunately this one will be a little bit more than a scare, as they're going to make some contact both with each other and the wall. And this is bad for Progar because he really gets pinched up there. You don't want to see the corners of the car get damaged like that. And the 6 especially just kind of slammed into that safer barrier. Neither of them have forced repairs, it looks like, but I expect they'll probably be in anyways during this yellow.
And you'll see it, he just sort of drifts down the track and gets into the 6, and that's a hard hit to the outside wall. Kip Easley, who's had some bad spells tonight, he gets through this one, avoids damage, and so we will expect Dustin Reeves and Chris Progar to take a trip down to pit road. It looks like they will be joined by the number 10 of Dakota Curtis, who did get an end-of-line penalty to start this race. So he's been trying to get back up through the field after starting on the back foot. Unfortunately, this race hasn't panned out in the exact way he has wanted it to, and he's going to go for, I believe, some tires or some fuel. Either one of those is he's going to come in, and the damaged cars also going to have some service. More than halfway through stage number 1 here at Worldwide Technology Raceway, and I have to imagine At this stage, Joe, if you're this 81 and the 5, are you thanking your lucky stars that you got this caution flag, both of them running severely hard in that last one?
Yeah, absolutely. I know he says he was holding on to his stuff, but that's always more from the driver's perspective. I mean, he'll know a little bit better than we do about what he was doing inside there. But I think as hard as they've been racing each other, that they've probably used up a little bit of tire trying to settle this out. Also, for Kip Easley, he's got to be wondering what in the world the universe has it out for him today, because he was involved in the first caution, he was involved in the second caution, and he very nearly was involved in the latest one directly behind it, as we saw that on board.
Yeah, he's been rather unlucky tonight. I really hope it turns around. I mean, for Easley, he's been in the trouble spot all night long, and that has been somewhat at the tail end of the field and somewhere around the middle. We've seen that be the hornet's nest and develop the biggest packs. And when you've got all those cars, Joe, going into turn one, such a tight radius, I mean, it can be very easy to slide up and make a mistake. And we saw it at the Cup Series race earlier today, where we've seen drivers make contact or have problems in those corners when everybody's packed up all together when you get the green flag at first. So it can really get tough. And so hopefully we'll see Easley's night turn around. I mean, he's got the Kyle Busch scheme on hand. He'd want to do the same thing Busch did earlier today and win here from Worldwide Technology Raceway. Let's take a look at the Big Bracket Challenge. We talked about it at the beginning of tonight's show, but here's a look at how the update is going to pan out for now. Parker Bland going up against Justin Erb, and it appears that the number 20 has the upper hand in this quarterfinal round. Harlow and Stepien, though, Joe, I think this battle was made for this race. Both of them have advanced up until this point. That one might be the hardest to call.
Exactly. And I mean, it is still early, and it could be that maybe the complexion of this race will change. Someone is just kind of biding their time in the background, waiting closer to the end. But right now, those two do look pretty quick. So that could be just a real fierce fight all the way to the end if they're this close on pace.
And Dakota Curtis, you see him there with NA on his opponent. So Curtis with the default bye week, if we can use some other sports terms, he's going to advance to the semifinal at Watkins Glen. Jesse Whittington and Warren Kyle Keith are going at it for their respective position in the Big Bracket Challenge. Whittington winning so far. He is P6, while the 24 car is back in 11th, a couple of rows behind. So that's your Big Bracket Challenge. We'll be following this all throughout the rest of the regular season, and we'll have that $200 winner by the time we end our race at Daytona in just a couple of weeks. So we'll double them up once more, lap number 30 of 150, and about 10 laps away from stage one officially coming to a close. Steven Stepien has led a majority of the laps tonight. Pole sitter Ross Harlow tried to take it away in the last run, could not do it, but has another chance of doing just that. Austin Shoemaker, Lawson Peel, those in row number 2. Jesse Whittington, who we saw in row number 1 earlier, he's going to be back in row 3, joined by SKM's Alex Muscarella in the number 48 machine. Pace car makes the left to pit road. Can we end this run under green to the end of the first stage? We'll just have to find out. That 81 and that 5 car have been battling all night long. It appears that 81 goes off to a good jump and restart underway, lap number 30.
This time looking a little bit more settled between them. I think Stepien did not want to have to deal with that again, so made sure that he's well clear. But Shoemaker's going to continue to hound the 12, I think. He's sticking with it. They come down the back stretch, and it does seem behind them there's a number of comers and goers there in the mid-pack.
We had almost 3 wide at around 12th place, where Austin Reedy about dove it under the 24 and the 4 car. He's in the midst of the Hornets nest and still trying to pick up positions. Forrester backs out the exit of turn 4. And this has become a hip-hoppity don't stop right now for turn 1. Everybody looking for position. Reedy on the outside of Warren Kyle Keith, trying to chase that 4 car and might make it 3 wide before turn 2. Backs out for the moment. He's got 14th.
Warren Kyle Keith there on the bottom. Doesn't have the momentum. He's got that inside line. We've seen the bottom is the place to be here through the corner. 96 going to try and send it in. Ford did as well. He had to get out of that a little bit. It looks like Shoemaker wanted to try and attack Forrester, but just didn't have enough. And did the 96 just hit the wall?
Yeah, he did. Got a piece of the safer barrier at the exit of 4. Backed out against the 24 car, but he's going to try and rebound here. He about pancaked the right side of his car. One around. Behind him, Justin Erb.
Oh, and the 9 is just going to completely T-bone him. Scoot over, unfortunately caught out on the high side as that car was prone across the track with no place to go. That's going to also collect, I think, Miller and Reeves, it looks like.
And this started this battle for around P16, the 20 of Erb and the number 11 of Rogers, who just goes up the track, gets into Erb, and then gives him a second official, I guess, confirmed tap to send him around. And then you watch that 9 just go hard into the 20 as he backs it up against the outside wall. And tough break for Schoonover, who had been dropping positions all night. And then Dustin Reeves involved in an incident for the second time.
Yeah, so Schoonover was already high. And the way these corners work, it's so tough to bring it back down once you've drifted up there. So with the speed that he was carrying in, watch from this perspective. Yeah, he's already committed. And, I mean, I don't know what he really could have done at this point.
Yeah, nothing there. I mean, that car is not going to travel down. I mean, we've seen this setup be so tight from all the drivers this evening, and we talked to Chris Progard. He said the setup was very understeery, rather, very tight. Here's a look on board from Reeves, who does get tagged in this last second right here as the tail spins from the 20. And then does get a piece of that outside wall as that Ford Mustang comes to a halt. And again, Joe, the problems arising at around the latter mid-half and somewhat back of the field. We've seen a lot of those issues come apart in those areas of the field, and we do have a lot more drivers on pit road. This starts with Colin Forrester, so lap 34 before our first stage break. We have somewhat of a split here.
Yeah, some of these guys just have nothing to lose, obviously, so they're at the back. Might as well try something, see what it gets you from here. And especially if we get everybody else pitting, if we get another quick caution after or during the stage there. So we could see this be a pretty good call to get track position for some of these guys that are farther back, but they need a little bit of luck on their side. Of all the drivers that have been dealing with some of these plagues of cautions that we've seen, Kip Easley's already been in twice. He didn't pit this time, though. And then Dakota Curtis just took his 3rd pit stop already.
Yeah, it's been tough, and for Easley, I'm sure he's thanking his lucky stars he was not involved or around that incident, really close to it. And it appears everybody 24th on back, led by Kevin Hurley, but might just be led by Forrester as the 25 comes back in. They all have come in for 4 fresh tires and some fuel, so should give them the track position before the end of stage number 1. Let's talk to the driver of the number 32. That is Richard Swavely. And Richard, you're up plus 13 so far in the first stage, lap 35. What's gone right for you so far?
I feel like I have a little bit more long run speed than some of the other guys. So I've just been kind of being patient and getting off the corner a little bit better than some of them. And that little pit cycle helped. I gained about 5-6 spots with everybody going in the pits. So yeah, it looks like I'm making some stage points here, hopefully, and carry it on for the rest of the race.
Yeah, really good start so far from Worldwide Technology Raceway. And how have you felt this racetrack? A lot of the drivers have talked about this setup being very tight. What have you felt, and how have you tried to manage some of the difficulties of driving this car here?
You do have to wait a long time to get back on the throttle, but that's kind of a part and parcel with a kind of flat short track like this. So you just wait for a little bit and wait for the car to grip. You can just kind of get a really good run off the corner, and that's kind of the secret, is not putting too much bind on that right front.
So far things are working, and hopefully by the end of stage 1, like you said, some good points on the line. Richard, thank you for joining us, and best of luck when we get the green. I do believe we have the 1 to green signal this time.
Yeah, thank you. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to my buddy Corey Stansel. I got a sticker on my my doors. He passed away. He was one of the guys I raced with in one of the first leagues I raced on iRacing about 5 years ago, and he passed away unfortunately this last weekend. So rest easy, Corey. We're thinking about you.
Well, that's the 32 Richard Swavely, currently one of our biggest movers tonight. And you pointed it out, Joe Peak. We do also have another big trotter through the field, and that is Ray Rogers, up from 33rd to 13th. Some good stuff there.
Yep, so that's going to be nice track position for Ray, but still kind of stuck in the mid-pack with the size of this field. So he's got to watch out on this next restart, make sure to keep the car clear and watch out on whoever's going to make the big moves for those stage points, because we're only going to get, what, about a 3 or 4 lap dash here till it?
Yeah, we are not going to have that many laps to go until the end of stage 1. And speaking of Richard Swavely, he's looking for his best finish since 7th at Kansas earlier in May. The 81 and the 5, Stepien and Harlow, going to bring us to the green flag at lap number 37. So a quick dash to the end of stage 1. Green flag back in the air.
Everybody going to chuck it down into turn 1. You were talking about it earlier, how it narrows down into this first corner, especially with how sharp it is on the first half of the track. And the 14 using that high side really well, trying to keep it off the wall, just barely does. So Shoemaker's going to get third place with that gutsy move.
And he's going to keep the 12 of Peel at bay, and another challenger arises in the form of the 48, as here comes Stepien, a big dive in turn 3 for the lead.
Wants to get underneath them, but he's not going to be able to just quite do it. He did have that bottom side, but being pinched to the bottom just doesn't seem to be working there either. You need a much better momentum down there into that quarter to really carry that through. So single file back on the first half of the track once again, at least for the top runners, but a big moment for Stepien off of 2.
One of the biggest mistakes we've seen out of that 81, and you talk about the restart that gave Harlow the lead. He kept it with that 81 car the entire straightaway before turn 1. Might have just been the key to get him the first spot with only 1 lap or so left until the end of stage number 1, on board with Stepien 0G Ford Mustang as he tries to eye in on your leader. Austin Shoemaker, though, filling up the rear view mirror behind him.
Parker got a little loose in turn 3. She had to catch the car, and so unfortunately is losing positions down to 27th at this point. I've been keeping an eye on those who pitted. Right now, the highest amongst them is Colin Forrester, but he's not making super quick inroads. He's only just now starting to pass some cars.
He's on the bottom 3 wide. That was with Travis Stevens, and James Kunkel will make that 3 wide again. Kunkel goes way up the racing surface, and that 31 is trying his hardest, but there may not be stage points available for Forrester, and that will be the case. Caution flag out of lap 40. Stage 1 is over here from Worldwide Technology Raceway, and with a clutch restart there in the waning laps of the stage, Ross Harlow takes stage number 1 here in Madison, Illinois. Stepien in second, Shoemaker third, then it's Peel, Muscarella to round out the top 5. Whittington, Banks, Swavely, Keith, and Mock round out your top 10. And what a run for the 47 Isaac Mock, up 7 spots from the green. Started back in 17th, and the 5 will pick up the pace car, and what a restart it was for him.
Yeah, great stuff for Austin to be able to slip into that third position. The question is, what can he do from here? Because Stepien and Harlow have been the ones setting the pace up in front. I don't think we've really seen Shoemaker or Peel be a factor since the start of this race. Lawson kind of let them go by and then has been sitting comfortably down in 4th. But as you'd expect, everybody at the top of the field is not going to take advantage of the stage caution to try and pit in.
And we'll watch those. Colin Forrester on back, those 24th, and then the rest of the field who came down pit road, and it appears Forrester is going to stay out in turns 3 and 4, so we might have him assume the race lead. Everybody else, though, down for service, and you watch that pretty interesting entrance onto the lane where you've got a pit road access in turn 3. You have to go all the way around through there and then come right into the lane where there's overpass stairs. It's still on the lane where everybody's avoiding. We talked with our producer about that before we drop the green, something these drivers have to avoid, a little knick-knack. But here come your leaders for pit road.
So everybody trying to make sure they hit their marks. It's going to be important here because you're already going to be losing track position with those that undercut you. And the caution just before the stage ended, I didn't see anybody look like they went too far in. Everybody trying to gas their way out of the pits, and the 5 is well clear. Shoemaker, though, almost sniped Stepien there.
He almost had it, and your top 10 are going to stay out. Your lead handed over to the 31 of Colin Forrester. Out for a short break, but we will continue our coverage of the Gateway to the West 180 from Worldwide Technology Raceway. You won't miss a thing right here on Podium Esports.
What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Fuller. Yeah. Needed F-150 for Smith build. Got it. Yesterday. I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done. How's he do it? I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
There is Max Papis in the Ferrari. As great a race as Ferrari has ever had.
The steering wheel for me has always been a sensitive spot. There's a whole experience there that we're all trying to refine. Max Pappas, he asked me one day, he said, what can I do in a wheel? I said, well, with the new
What got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Stage 1 complete in the gateway to the West 180 from Worldwide Technology Raceway. Welcome back to our coverage, as always, on Podium Esports. Kenneth Bueno and Joe Peak to bring you the action in the broadcast booth. Ryan Bauer, our producer this evening, using cameras given by Dougie Beard. It's a fast banana restart. Your top 10 all stayed out. After the stage break, green flag will wave, and it will be the rookie driver, Colin Forrester, who gets underway first. And we are back green from Gateway.
Yeah, so we've got all these drivers up at the front. They're on slightly older tires, except Gary Sexton, who's got a lot older tires. I think he's up to 20-plus laps on those tires at this point. So he's going to be the oddball out to see what happens in this group. Everybody else, I don't think from what we've seen that there's enough crossover between tires and the track position. I think they made the right call, honestly.
Oh, Harlow's around in turn 3. Got the bumper by the 68, goes sideways and was hit by nobody. Saves the car in the grass, but caution is out. Lap 45.
Whew, just about came on a little sketchy there, but thankfully everybody was heads up. I definitely think there was some contact there from Kendall from behind. It was very, very light. Watch it here. Just gonna brush him. So I don't think there was anything intentional here. Just got a little bit of a touch, had to try and catch the car. Did a really good job, and everybody was really great behind him to be heads up in that situation.
Yeah, I'm sorry I had to cut you off there, but I saw that happening. There were 3 wide, and I was like, that seems to be a pretty interesting decision, and then just dove it in on the brakes a little later than the 5 car and made that slight contact. With the momentum shifts, I mean, it's going to carry that 5 through the corner like that, sideways, and it's hard to save it. The great thing about it was that he locked up the brakes and nobody else hit him. Even the ones on the inside barely escaped. They did not make contact with the 5, so Harlow lives to see another lap. Here's a look on board with Logan Sturgeon in the 26. He had a nice view of all this as well.
So sees the car sliding ahead. He has to try and figure out high, low, high, low. He thinks low, and then at the last second, the car almost goes right in front of him. He's going to get a little bit of an off track. That doesn't really matter here as they don't have incident limits. But he basically his main concern was just not having any contact in that moment. And now, unfortunately for Ross Harlow, he's got a lot of hard work to do. He's lost track position to those that are on the same strategy as him. And that's honestly what he really wanted in that moment, was to be the first on his strategy and let the race kind of sort itself out from there. But now he's got kind of two tasks at hand.
Yeah, that's true. He is backed up to 19th on the racetrack. Some pretty tough stuff there for the 5 as he got hit by the 68 in the middle of the corner, and it's dropped a lot, and we'll see what he can do when we get to green. It's a really good point you make there. Wants to be the first car there to break through all the old tire traffic, but unfortunately he's gonna have to follow the waves of whatever's put down by everybody in front of him. We'll see, though. He does have a very fast Chevrolet Camaro tonight. Just a reminder that coverage of the Sunoco Cup Series on Podium Esports is brought to you by sksimracing.com. They provide many great services, and we appreciate all their support of the Sunoco Cup Series as it rolls through in 2023. They have their own team, Judd Danielson, Sean Kalis among those in that group. SK Sim Racing, to find out more of what they do, you can head over to sksimracing.com. Sean Kalis, one of those SK Sim Racing drivers, unfortunately not on the eligibility list for this race here from Gateway. Judd Danielson is, though. He currently rides in the 25th place position in that 85 Ford Mustang. But as we sort of restart after this caution and get ourselves collected again, lap 48, but we'll talk about Colin Forrester, Wyatt Brackett, these guys that are staying out. How big of a benefit is this for them to have these cautions come out so early through the run?
Oh, it's massive for them. This is yet more time before we get to lap 80 that they don't have to try and fight those behind them. So this works out beautifully for them. If they could be plagued with cautions, they'd probably be happy with it and get away with holding on to the lead all the way up to the second stage break. So that would get them those bonus points. But you can't always bank on that, so they're going to have to try and manage themselves on these restarts. That's part of it, though, is if you've got a few laps on those tires, you need to be cognizant on the restarts, because you won't have the grip that you usually think you do, trying to accelerate away, and that can bite you, because even if you don't spin out the car, if you get some wheel spin, that's going to make you slow down the straight, and it happens so early here that being out-dragged could cost you a position by the time you reach turn 1.
And if you get wheel spin, you're going to back up that entire lane. Who knows what that could spell? Well, that could spell disaster going into turn 1. We've seen it happen before at other tracks on the schedule, and no question, it's a possibility tonight from Gateway. We do have somebody in chat asking how much they are shifting at both ends, so courtesy of Duke_. They are shifting twice in turns 1 and 2. They go all the way down to third gear in the middle of the corner just because the speeds are so low. But then in turns 3 and 4, where the speeds are a lot faster, the corner's a lot wider, even though you have less banking, these guys are only going down to fourth gear, which continues to be a factor throughout this race. The shifting really matters in dialing up the middle and exit of corners here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. One of the caveats of racing here, so it's a lot of fun to see what these drivers can do behind the wheel, and it just takes a little more physicality with their arms. Instead of just holding onto the wheel, they gotta hold on to their shifter too. Colin Forrester, Wyatt Brackett, still the 2 Fast Banana Chevrolets will bring us back to green with lap 50 on the way at 100 laps to go from Madison, Illinois.
Back down into 1 once again. I'm keeping an eye on Stympian because he's the highest on that fresh tire strategy, but he's still kind of stuck around the outside right now in that 81. And there you can see him on screen. This will give us a better idea of how much these tires are actually going to be worth. Like, we can go based on what we've seen, but we really don't get good data until we actually get these laps down.
That's true. The 81 will try and get this out lap. Caution is out, though, and it is a car up in the outside wall. Logan Sturgeon in the 26.
So, trying to see if he had help. He was actually near Ross Harlow, and unfortunately, Harlow gave him some help, it looks like. Going to turn him around. Now, I don't know if that's going to net him a penalty or anything, but that's certainly not the way that he was looking to try and make his recovery. And that's pretty straightforward. Harlow just got into the back of him and hooked him.
And that 26 backed up earlier, just wanted a conservative entry into the corner. That 5, we know how good he's been all night long. He knows how far he can take that Chevrolet into the corner without wadding it up on the outside, and that 26 just gets torn up, and you look at the view from Garrett Brown, his Best Buy Ford Mustang, getting a good look at it. Logan Sturgeon, who was on the back bumper of Harlow when he almost about got turned by the 68 of Ryan Kendall in turn 3, now on the opposite end, getting sent into the corner. He's going to come down pit road.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got pretty much no choice on that one. Schoonover probably still getting a few repairs done. Logan with his meatball flag has to. You're not allowed to carry on racing with that meatball flag. It's a black flag with an orange disc for those that aren't familiar. It means that your car is too dangerous to continue, and you must take repairs until the sim considers it a good enough condition to keep racing. Sometimes that can be frustrating because the car actually does drive fine. Sometimes it's kind of a foregone conclusion. You're not going to be carrying on. But Logan did look like the car was handling fine. So this has got to be really annoying for him to lose all that track position. And depending on how long these repairs take, he could easily go a lap down or two. Yeah, that's true. And you know, you look at the meatball flags, you can kind of have phantom damage. You don't think you have any damage, but you do, and the wheels all messed up, toe links are all over the place. Who knows? But some tough situation there for the 26 of Logan Sturgeon. We'll talk to the 31 of Colin Forrester, who got an earlier stop and stayed out at the end of stage number 1 and now holds on to the lead. Colin, first of all, welcome to the broadcast booth, but I want to ask you, how good does it feel being in the race lead, and how good has it been with the cautions coming out as of late?
Man, it's definitely been great. Clean air's definitely felt a lot better. I mean, we knew it was going to be a track position race, though. We even seen that with the real life race today. So we played a little strategy there, me and the Fast Banana boys, and we decided to pit right before the stage. We figured it would only go 2 or 3 laps before the caution came back out. And now we're 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just going to keep trying to move along and try and get the stage win here, and see how the rest of the race plays out.
Yeah, that's what I was about to mention. Your top 4 are all Fast Banana cars. I know you've got some fresh tire machines, a couple of spots behind you guys, but does that make you guys feel a little more comfortable knowing you've got your entire team brigade on set?
Oh yeah, definitely. We feel very comfortable in position we are. Our tires are only 2, maybe 3 laps older than the rest of the fields, so I think we're in a pretty good spot here. We just gotta hopefully get a green flag run, honestly. I think, I mean, like I said, track position's key, and it's just been really hard to pass, so just ready to get these laps out of the way.
And how important is this race from Gateway? I mean, you're one of the drivers highest up on the point standings without a W in 2023. You missed last week at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So what does it mean to go back to the lead here and to try and make the most of tonight's race from Gateway?
Yeah, we definitely got to make the most. We're second to last race, third to last race before the playoffs, so definitely got to start honing on the points. And obviously we're going to try and get wins still, but really got to worry about the points here, just trying to get into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens from there.
Well, that's one Fast Banana on the front of the field. Colin, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck on the restart where you've got the lead.
All right, appreciate it.
So yeah, I was about to say, top 4 are all Fast Banana cars. They have really peeled out in front of the rest of the field. That was a terrible joke, and I'm probably never going to say it again. But top 4 all Fast Banana cars. And a couple of spots behind them is the 13 of Gary Sexton, who is bearing the Mario Miranda colors tonight. We did have Super Mario Racer in the chat saying that Twisted Tech Scheme looks great. This is weird, LOL. That's a perfect way to describe it.
Well, it doesn't matter how weird it looks as long as it gets to the finish line first. That's all we really, or the driver really needs to worry about from inside there. But it seems like Gary Sexton's holding his own. Stempian was able to get up to 7th, so he's gained a few places on that very brief bit of racing that we had. He is making some inroads, but it's hard to tell how much of that is the tires and how much of it is just them getting jumbled up on the restarts.
Yeah, that's true. And Stempian starts outside in P7. We'll see what work he can do. He's, again, one of those highest drivers on the newer set of tires. Fast Banana has control of the first 2 rows by this restart. Colin Forrester, the first one to jump when we get the green flag. Wyatt Brackett on the inside. Lap 55, green from Gateway.
Coming down to the first corner. 31's going to be well clear. In fact, Reedy round the outside, up 27 spots currently. Helped out by that pit stop. But, oh, into the wall for the 25, I think.
Yeah, he caught the outside safer barrier at the exit of turn 2. He was in the outside of 3 wide. Action, now it's settled back to 2. Sexton on the top of the 4, Chris Shoemaker, while Stepien tries to make sense out of all of this so far. He's going to dive on the inside of the 13 out of 4, and Sexton hits the wall, got loose out of the corner.
Wonder if those tires are starting to feel it now that he's been out there for a little while. Certainly looks like he's not terribly fast compared to those around him. Underneath, that's going to be the 12. And is Lawson Peel going to be able to finish it? No, he's the one that gets loose, actually.
Yeah, and he got pinched a little bit and kicked up those rear tires, and now going to have to reset here. He has really struggled at picking through the traffic, while Stepien has had more of a comfortable route through it all. It's a really tough scenario to be in as well, because you saw how loose that 13 was about a lap ago in turn 4. You can have absolutely no control and just have them careen into without your knowledge. So fortunately for both cars, they're able to stay close to each other without making contact. Never mind. That's once and almost twice between the 12 and the 13.
Almost looked like it may have been a little bit of ghost contact, but thankfully everybody gets away with it. And this helps Hurley out after that huge clunk into the wall. But down at the bottom, Lawson Peel going to try and catch back up to Sexton here as we ride with Adcock. And this is all from 7th place that we're on board with right now. The rest of them kind of running away in front of them.
Yeah, that's true. Top 6 have broken away. And to Aaron Adcock, he's around 0.8 of a second off of P6 Chris Shoemaker. And that's the highest we've seen Aaron Adcock run all night. So some good news for the number 23, the winner at Talladega earlier this season for Big Fish Motorsports, and started back in 28th. So some good progress as here is Stepien diving on the inside for 4th against Wyatt Brackett in the 30.
Wyatt Brackett on the fresher tires, so he's able to hold that outside a lot better. And 81 is on fresher tires, rather, I should say. So that actually makes it impressive that the 30 has been able to hold on the outside quite like that. And they're fighting for the 4th position currently. Brackett not quite going to have the run off the corner, but they've been dead even for about a lap and a half now.
Yeah, Stepien not able to break away from that Cartoon Network machine. Cannot be like Speedy Gonzalez right now, as the 4 machine of Shoemaker stays behind this duo, and all the while that's letting the Fast Banana cars, at least the rest of them, run away. Forrester already up a couple of seconds over this 81 car, as here's Peel sending it 3 wide on the bottom in turn 1.
And the 23 of Adcock has to get out of that one. He did not want to see the car drift up into the outside wall. Sexton still holding tough there on the high side, as the bottom of turn 1 just doesn't seem to give you enough grip and enough of a run off the turn. We're going to watch from Hurley here on the high side.
Let's see what Hurley can do. He's going to try and arc it at the exit of 4. So will Sexton. He tried the crossover on the 12, but to no avail. And finally, the SpaceX car rockets through to 7th, and he's able to hold on to the spot. But it is going to be a little while before he can catch up to the next car in line, Chris Shoemaker, as behind them, Austin Shoemaker goes at it with Aaron Adcock for 10th.
Yeah, so Adcock's been having a bad couple laps, and I think may have brushed the wall there a little bit coming off of 2. So this inside, that's Austin Shoemaker trying to finish it up now, and a little bit of side-by-side, I think, between Sexton and Peel once again, just in front of him. Getting a little hip check now between Swavely and Curtis.
Swavely continuing his move up through the field. We mentioned where he started back in 23rd, and at one point we had 4 out of our cars in the top 10 start 20th or worse. That's how much the strategy has shaken up the field so far this evening. Muscarella with a good view at this side-by-side battle for 12th. And I want to talk to you, Joe, about the 12 appeal, because he still is in front of Gary Sexton. He's got that spot for now, but where's your mindset here? It took you so long to get around that 13, a bit of contact in the way as well. Now you've got traffic way up the road in front of you. How do you approach the rest of the stage from here on out?
If I'm Lawson, honestly, I'm not going to waste my rubber trying to catch up to those front runners. Just kind of hold position, keep Gary Sexton behind, try to keep him from racing you too hard. Somebody maybe having a little bit of a lockup coming into the first turn as we go 3 wide coming off of it. This won't end well.
And look who's on the bottom of it all. Ross Harlow in the 5 car. Banks in the middle, Adcock on the top. They both make contact. Entering turn 3. Here comes Whittington with a chance into the 3rd corner. They're 3 wide again in the middle.
23 of Adcock still just losing positions left and right here. He's going to keep it off the wall. but Warren Kyle Keefe gonna stay beside him at least until now as they dive back down into turn 1 once again. And it's still not done in front of them. My goodness, Ross Harlow on a recovery drive underneath the side of the number 10, but he gets loose.
And much like Run DMC said at one point, it is tricky here in the mid-pack. Harlow on the inside of Curtis Still for that 13th spot. And like you said, yeah, Joe, he's been on that back foot and has been trying to recover from that earlier incident where he got tapped by Kendall. This is a good sign. Tap to the rear bumper of Curtis by Brandon Banks, one of the Drinking Bros Racing drivers, diving on the inside. He'll try to bring the SheriffStrafe.com Camaro with him in tow. Right on board with Harlow for SKM. He's clear. Next car in line, number 48 of Alex Muscarella, his teammate. If you're Harlow, this is definitely good stuff. I mean, stage 2 is not over. You've got at least 15 more laps. It's looking good for now. And although you're still further back in the field and you know you had the lead, some decent progress as Austin Reedy eyes in and has closed the gap on your leader.
Yeah, down to just a couple car lengths here, and they're still way ahead of Steven Stempien. Even though he's moved up to 4th, he's been stuck behind Curtis Kelly here. But all he needs is to, I think, wait until that stage caution, and they're going to group them back together. Because again, to me, it's not worth risking the car, especially if you are already through with a win. Just kind of bide your time, take what positions are possible, and don't try to overdrive the car to get what just isn't there.
Yeah, that's true. When you've got a lot of time left, it can be really easy to just lose all that patience and throw it all away, but it appears for the moment things seem to be working quite swimmingly. There is Whittington. Middle of this pack, here's Isaac Mock on the inside. The pass for position around Dakota Curtis. Things are looking really good for Mock here in the 47 car, who is right there with Curtis for that last spot into the playoffs via points. These two are fighting for that spot because Mock is back 6 points going into tonight's race against that 10 car. And these two have been going at it so far. There's a look on board with the Nitro Motorsports Chevy Camaro and Mock's perspective right behind Jesse Whittington. And this is prime opportunity to take advantage on Curtis now that Whittington is trying to go through.
Yeah, but he braked very early down into 1. He was thinking about it, but I think he was just trying to scare the 10 off the racing line, which he did somewhat. But as they drift off the corner, that middle line seems to be the place to be, as there is a big wiggle there from the 47 as we ride on board. You got to watch out for that. The more you do that off the corner, the more you're just going to chew up the rear tires, and by the end of the stint, it's going to be a real handful.
And part of that, again, turns back to our conversation about shifting and really how conservative you have to be. And a couple of drivers attack that wall, and one of them being Dakota Curtis. So that invites Jesse Whittington to blow the door wide open. Mock heavy in turn 1. That's a send.
I don't think it was an intentional send. I think it was unsighted there off the corner. Still pinching down, just doesn't seem to be the place to be. Whittington can't get the launch. He's going to keep a little bit of an overlap. He's going to have to try and finish it here. Curtis leaves him plenty of space down on the entry to 3 and 4. In fact, maybe too much, because Rogers is there to try and pick his pocket, and that's exactly what he's going to do.
And caution is out at lap number 70. We appear to have a problem with Justin Miller. Very slow, but I'm not sure whether the caution was actually thrown for him or thrown for some other cause. He's trying to merge back with traffic. So a caution thrown at lap 70. This is not for stage. It should be lap 80 when we get our second stage officially over. So we'll try and see what happened here.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. It definitely wasn't for the 22 because he was coming out of pit lane. And unless we were given incorrect information on when the stages were supposed to be, because it should have been on lap 80 here. I'm not seeing anybody turned around or anything.
And maybe a scenario where somebody got sideways or something might have happened. Dakota Curtis is talking over the radio. We do have a little bit of confirmation here from our producer, Ryan Bauer. That is an iRacing thrown yellow, so race control, it really didn't have a say in all of that. So I imagine somebody might have gone sideways at some juncture of the track, and it might have just triggered that yellow, either that or just a slow car, because it seems like no one's in trouble. So, I mean, that's the good news, Joe. We had a phantom caution, and nobody's involved in a wreck, theoretically, but, I mean, it's going to slow the field down for sure.
I'm still looking for it, see if somebody did have, like, a real sideways moment out there or something, and, yeah, when the moment the yellow came on, I see nobody perpendicular to the track, so somebody had thrown a water bottle, I suppose, out, and now they're going to get it replaced on pit lane.
Well, those water bottles are going to be plentiful here on pit road, and this group led by Lawson Peel to come in the 12 car, so he will forfeit his spot inside the top 10 and will burn some fresh rubber. And similar to what we saw before the end of stage 1, Joe, we're seeing a lot of these guys come in, get some fresh tires, and just do what these guys up at the front now are doing. Stay out when the stage comes through and then just try and hold on to that track position. It seems to be the biggest case of note. Harlow's going to come out around 4th in this group. Peel's going to lead them out. He will drop all the way to 21st, so a lot of progress he's going to have to make when we drop the green flag once more from Worldwide Technology Raceway. But no need to push. They'll have the track position come stage in.
Yeah, and while we are getting a few long green flag runs here, it does seem like you can't count on them going long enough that that extra rubber that you've got is going to give you the advantage. Nobody's really been blasting through and taking advantage of it. Stempion's about the closest we've got. He managed to get up to 4th, but I think he's learned the same lesson that all these other guys did. He stayed out this time. Track position is going to be king. If it's a part-way call and we know that we've got that stage caution coming up, which unfortunately is only this one coming up, you got to stay out.
That's true, and track position remains king here at Gateway. Let's talk with the number 96, Austin Reedy, who's currently got 2nd right now and was actually closing in on the leader prior to this somewhat phantom yellow lap 70. Reedy, first of all, thank you for joining us and talk to us about how this race has turned around for you. You started in 29th, you've worked your way up to 2nd. What has that been like from your perspective?
A lot of work. We really screwed up the qualifying, so as a team, we decided to flip the first stage to put ourselves in this position now. So I know how it was back there trying to get around some of them guys, and it's just so hard to pass here. Track position is so important. So we saw Lawson go down there and take tires with a couple other boys. So we'll see what happens with the long run, if we can get one in that last stage where tires are going to fall.
And long runs might just be the key for you, because in that last long run, you had a shot at Forrester for the race lead. Does this car seem to be more comfortable in your hands as the laps wind down and as the tires wear out, or is it just a case of circumstance where you were able to catch up to Forrester?
I like this car in the long run here. I usually do a lot better in the long run compared to short runs at a lot of the track. So I think it's a lot of me just trying to get in the groove of the run. Get like 10 laps on the green and I start feeling good, knowing what lines I need to hit and what the car is doing.
All right, well, 1 to green signal. You've got your Fast Banana teammates around you. Best of luck when we get the green.
All right, thank you.
Austin Reedy going to be on the inside of row number 1. He's looking for his best finish since technically the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, but if we're talking regular season action, it's 3rd, where he finished at Darlington on May 14th, just a couple of weeks back. And this is going to be big here, a shift when we get stage 2. We're about 5 or 6 laps away from it, give or take, Joe, and we're going to see these Fast Banana guys come in, and Lawson Peel and all those guys who had come in recently going to have the front. So it's going to be interesting to see how things flip around for them and how much work they're going to have to do come stage 3.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely interesting that it's almost split halfway, it seems like, very close to it. And that's going to be a lot harder work. Back before, when it was about 10 cars, again, like I said, you had Stempion, who was able to charge his way up towards the front, but that's going to be a lot harder with double what you had before.
Well, there's a look on board with Stempion. He's got a look at your controlled car on the restart. It is the 31 of Colin Forrester smoothly through the gears, and we're back under green from Gateway.
96 really going to send that down on the bottom. That or Stempion was a little bit timid there on the top. Going to cut back here. See if he can get the launch off the corner behind them. I'm watching to see if we're going to... Whoa, we are going to have a bit of a problem.
And he's into the outside wall. He'll bring some more cars with him. Isaac Mocktrap there as well. And we talked about Peel not really having to push all that much because he was on fresh tires and was probably going to get the track position. Is now in peril at lap 75.
So this is an odd one. I don't think this is really Peel's fault here. The 68 of Kendall is just going to come down a little bit on him. Yeah, and that's what knocks him loose. I don't know if the 68 got loose himself and that's what sent him into it, or if he just didn't know that car was coming up the inside. But whatever the case, this Peel was just kind of wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, that's true. And they were also 3 wide. Behind them, Gary Sexton, here's a look from his car, and he gets hit by the 3. He almost finds himself in the same position, but fortunately he hits it square with that 3's left side, and so he keeps that car straight. But for Peel, it's unfortunately on the wrong end of things, and comes up in Isaac Mock, Kevin Hurley, and what a run that was turned sour for that 47. Justin Miller with a piece of this for the RTR Motorsports camp. His Toyota Camry has been struggling all night long, and this is what he saw.
Well, or what he didn't see. That smoke made it really hard to tell what was going on. The 46 of Mahar as well basically had to take a wild ride through the grass, and that put him well down the order, unfortunately. But looks like we're getting pit stops, so he's going to make that back up. So all the leaders are now in.
Yeah, that's true. The 31, Colin Forrester, leads this large group of cars, and more than 20, in fact, onto pit road. Chris Shoemaker, Ross Harlow, Gary Sexton among those to stay out, and it appears that Lawson Peel might have also found his way in, and he has, as he's going to lose some spots, getting his car repaired on pit road. Whittington's going to get out ahead of him. That SpaceX car, the first car in sight there in those pit boxes. Everyone else going to go through. So we have another new leader here from Gateway, the number 4 of Chris Shoemaker. But the biggest thing here, Joe, is that Ross Harlow's behind him. Finally, after the tumultuous trials he had to face all throughout the event, he's finally with a shot to potentially win stage 2.
Exactly, putting himself in a very good position here. So he worked this out to perfection, I'd have to say. It did kind of fall into his hands a little bit, but sometimes you got to play with the cards you're dealt, and he definitely has done this quite well, starting here from on that front row. It's a question of how hard does he really want to push to try and take the stage win, or is it better for him to just try to settle and take whatever good position he can wrap up here?
Well, we'll try and find out. We'll bring in Ross Harlow. And Ross, you had the great spot in stage number 1. You're here once again after so much that went through in between the first 2 stages. What's your mindset now as you've got second?
It's just play it smart. Don't got to worry about people trying to flip stage. It's just, got to make a right call, make a good call. Going into this final stage, just got to make good choices as far as strategy goes. Got a real fast car. Feel like I can definitely go out and win this thing. Had mechanical issues. I ran a buddy over. Just wasn't ready for how far I was gonna have to back the corners up in traffic. But just here trying to have fun. It's been a real stressful weekend. We'll see. Feels good though.
Well, talk us through that stint there where you had Logan Surgeon, you got hit by Ryan Kendall in a huge slide where nobody else hit you there in turn 3. How has it been like mentally to be in the middle of the pack and trying to work your way back up front? And what was the thing that you kept most in mind to keep you in the race?
It was just, be smart. I guess the thing at the forefront of my head was, I know that I've got one of the fastest cars here. It should be a good time. I just got to make sure I've got something at the end, and I've gotten caught up in that before, getting impatient. I know that kind of just happened to Lawson there, sending it 3 or 4 wide on the restart there. But got to keep a level head, can't overdo it, and make sure we've actually got a race car to go for something at the end here.
Well, a good sight line. When we get the green, you're going to be inside row number 1. Ross, thank you for the time, and of course, good luck on the restart.
Yeah, thank you, Kenneth. Appreciate it, guys.
So race control, Dakota Curtis, league owner, did decide that is the stage officially. So stage 2 winner will be Chris Shoemaker this time through, and we'll cross the line officially for lap 80. So most notably, Joe, our longest stint of the night, 70 laps on tap.
Now you got to really worry about those tires, especially if we get some longer green flag runs. Just pay attention to them, make sure and hold on to them, because if we wind up with a yellow late, we only have so many sets. You don't want to use them up too much and just be pulling them out every single yellow.
Well, here we go. Ford Mustang, Chris Shoemaker, Chevy Camaro, Ross Harlow, front row, bringing us back to the green. Stage 3 is underway from Worldwide Technology Raceway, and it's a good start by the 5. He'll dive it in turn number 1, makes contact with the 4. They both go sideways. The 13 will tag the 5 up into the field. Caution flag is out, and Harlow gets stuffed by everyone else behind him.
There's only a couple that wound up hitting him, but you can see the frustration from that one. I'd have to see that another time to really get an opinion on this one. So let's see. He's got a good run down the inside. I don't know. That seems like a racing deal to me, honestly. It's kind of two meeting in the middle from that angle. Might look a little different from a different one. Here we go. Let's see from the other side.
Yeah, I don't know if I see any specific fault. I mean, the 4's cutting down. He wants to play defense. The 5 is there because we know, Joe, I mean, you talked about it. You don't want to hold the true bottom here at Gateway because it's not going to work in your favor. You're not going to get momentum. And so it was just a collective merge. Just both of them make contact, and it takes the 5 for a ride. He almost saved it, but again, you're checking up so much because you're sideways. Everyone else behind you is going to try to get around it, and unfortunately, here's the contact with Gary Sexton. And then Austin really gets a piece of that. The 14 of Shoemaker, we've seen him good all night long, catching some really good cars in it.
The only thing I can really say about it is so much of racing is good decision making. It's risk versus reward. So you always got to be assessing, and what I'm doing right now is the risk I'm taking going to be worth it in the end. And I don't think it really was for those two to be racing that hard down into turn 1 on the restart. There should have been a little bit more space given between them. I don't think either one is necessarily at fault, but they both were just charging so hard in there trying to get the track position. There was so many laps left to go for them to wind up, or at least one of them to wind up with a banged up race car and a lot of racing left. It just seems a little silly in hindsight.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make there. And I mean, in the case of Harlow, he had made that move before, right? When you talked about that pass on Steven Stemping for the lead earlier in the race, he got a good restart, was there on his quarter panel before turn 1, and they made it work. And he got by. Unfortunately, though, I mean, it's a different driver in the scenario. It's a really tough to call, and unfortunately, the aggressive driving takes Harlow out of this race as he has officially disconnected from the server, and that will hand the lead off to the number 10 of Dakota Curtis. So that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, he was in that battle for the last playoff spot against Isaac Mock, and Dakota is now here. Chris Shoemaker behind him, Kevin Hurley for the rest of the top 3. And boy, has this field shaken up. By the way, talk about those that did get fresh tires. The highest runner amongst them is the 31 of Colin Forrester. A nice move up to P5. But also a driver who has made some significant progress in this race is the number 18 of Parker Bland. And Joe, you're caught up with her.
Yeah, absolutely. Parker up 18 spots, appropriate considering the number on the car. Now that we're getting ready to restart and we're heading off without any more stage cautions, how are you feeling?
Not too good, because I still really haven't figured out this track. I guess I just made a really good strategy call there before the stage came out.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, I suppose. But you've got some drivers that look like they're making some aggressive moves. That last one, that run into turn 1 that brought out the caution, had 2 drivers really going for it up at the lead. How's that going to inform how you approach this last stint?
I'm just going to hope that I can survive, because I think if I make it to the end, I should finish good, based on where I am right now.
Well, here's hoping, and we'll keep an eye out for it. One last question. What species is your Fursona?
It is a wolf.
Ah, I am a weasel, so glad to see a fellow furry out there. But best of luck, Parker, and excellent racing up to now.
Yeah, thank you.
Parker Bland in 6th here on the restart.
The furry community banding together. I like that. I like that. Parker Bland with some good progress in this race, starting 5th on the restart. We did mention Forster, the best one on fresh tires for now. Only 6 or 7 laps. Going to be 7 officially on his set of Goodyear Eagles. And the field led by Dakota Curtis for the very first time tonight. And boy, has Curtis been through hell and back in this race. Started in P20, has been involved and around some cautions so far. But I mean, the race is never over until it's over. And things can turn around for you in a heartbeat. For Dakota Curtis, he's going to hope to hold on to the lead with 66 laps to go as the sun peeks over the clouds, and we might have a little bit of some sunset action here in Madison, Illinois, much like the Cup race earlier this evening. Chris Shoemaker going to look to time the restart with the 10 car this time through. Pace car is down. The Mustangs prance onward to the green flag with 66 laps remaining.
So, it looked like a much better start for the 10 at first, and then suddenly started to check up. Everybody behind having to watch out, almost pushing him through the corner. The 13 of Gary Sexton really wants to give the hurry up, and it does work out for Curtis in the end. Shoemaker on the bottom, though. We've seen that line not work, and yeah, he's dropping back.
Drop back just a little bit, got pinched by Sexton. The 13 gets his way into the P2 spot. Kevin Hurley up to 4th. Parker Bland, we talked about inside the top 5. Caution is out, and it's Jesse Whittington in a big stack up in turns 3 and 4.
Lots of cars involved in that one, trying to make them all out here. Do see Brad Fulham turned around. Looks like Aaron Adcock as well. And I think that started with those two initially. Unfortunately, turning Whittington. And a few others, I think, getting involved in it. I think that's the 85 of Judd Danielson coming in late in there. Someone taken down to the escape road, actually.
And that's Lawson. Yeah, that's Peel going down to pit road to take evasive maneuver. And Whittington get caught by the 23 of Aaron Adcock. And we'll see it one more time. Here's a look on board from the Big Fish Motorsport, number 23. And watch here. Just a miscommunication on the brake. I mean, similar to Harlow and Logan Sturgeon, Joe, that we saw earlier tonight. Just two drivers with different braking markers. One gets into the other, and that just triggers a catastrophic event in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, and that's so easy to do. It might look a little silly, but when you've got really heavy braking into the corners, like you said, everybody's got their own markers, and you really have to be cognizant of that during practice and whatnot in the lead up to really kind of get a feel being around your competitors, who's doing what, who has what tendencies, know who you're racing. And if you don't, just leave a little margin, just kind of leave a little bit of space so that you can preserve the car and understand and study and see where they put themselves. Yeah, there you go. Unfortunately, the 85 just kind of almost looked like maybe he got a shove, and that sent him upwards. Let's watch from onboard Kunkel now.
Look with the 3 behind Warren, Kyle Keith, Garrett Brown. You know, reminds me of New Hampshire, the way the braking markers are set up and how differently each driver takes it. And Kunkel, I believe, avoided significant damage there, or damage at all, on behalf of the 3 car. Gets through the accident. Caution is out. Lap 87. And Dakota Curtis holds on to the lead. And we've got a pretty much front row and even top 3 Ford lockout. All 3 of these guys, by the way, started 15th or worse in this race. Chris Shoemaker, the highest runner out of all of them when we dropped the green on lap 1. And then even behind them, Kevin Hurley, Parker Bland, 25th and 24th when they started this race. Dustin Reeves is up to 8th. How about the turnaround for Dustin Reeves there, Joe? I mean, look at the amount of cautions that he was caught up in early, and now that 6 car is in the top 10 after starting 34th. Things have been really good so far for him.
I'm kind of amazed, honestly. I'm going to take a closer look at the car. Obviously, you can get panels replaced here in this next gen machine, so that helps out some. But yeah, I mean, it's not looking bad at all. So kind of amazing that after the number of incidents being involved with, that number 6 has actually got a pretty clean and well, obviously fast car if it's still running up this high.
Well, you can't take the fight out of that WR1 machine, and we'll talk to Dustin Reeves. And Dustin, give us your perspective. I mean, this race has turned around for you in the top 10. You were caught up in some troubles early. How's it been like to have that shift happen, and how good does it feel to be up where you are now?
Yeah, it's been a strategy. You know, we seen Larson do it earlier today, and this will be the only time I can put myself in the same sentence as Kyle Larson. So we flipped the stage there, got up here. It won't last, but it's fun up here. You get to avoid all those crashes in the mid-pack. But it's been nice to turn around my night after getting right hooked into the wall with 10 laps in, so it's been good.
And you're going to be with the top 10 here, going to be doubled up at around 1 to green here. And now, at least in this longest stint, are you expecting more cautions to be thrown out throughout this race, or do you expect a long green flag run that you're going to have to manage behind the wheel?
Man, I hope we get a long green flag run. I think I'm good on the long run, just not on the short run. I don't like burning my stuff up at any track we go to. So I hope we get a green flag run here. I'm running race control tonight too. So for the sake of that, I hope we can line this out.
Alrighty, well, Dustin, we appreciate the time. Best of luck when we get the green at lap 90.
All right, thank you, guys.
That's Dustin Reeves, who definitely has moved up through the field solidly. I mean, Joe, how many times have we talked about biggest movers tonight? It's been, I think, I can't even count it with my fingers. It's been so long.
I'd be curious to see how many cars have been in the majority of the positions at some point tonight, because it's been a lot of jumping around. The other thing that's jumped around is the temperature. It's down to only 87 Fahrenheit now, so it's cooled down a ton. I wonder if that's changing the handling.
And we are almost at 7 o'clock in sim time. The sun is setting here at Worldwide Technology Raceway. Things are really starting to take an effect on the field as we roll through lap number 90, where we get the most recent green flag restart, and it is Dakota Curtis and Gary Sexton, the two 0G cars, flailing for turn 1.
10's going to get well clear, but looks like he sent it kind of deep here. Dakota Curtis is going to drift up high. Sexton actually is looking good because I think the 10 brushed the wall.
He did, and side by side for both first and for third. Shoemaker's going to try and take a 2-for-1. Almost gets into Curtis in the middle of turn 3. 2 cars into the outside wall, but no harm, no foul. Will stay green flag racing. That might have been Richard Swavely who tagged the wall, and Parker Blaine went for an absolute slide on the back straightaway.
Yeah, Isaac Mock got into the back of her, unfortunately, and sent her up into the wall, but she's still going. We'll see where she can go from there. Unfortunately, lost all that track position she had gotten with strategy.
And here comes Kevin Hurley for the attack on to third. On the inside of Dakota Curtis, he's got it with a big dive in turn 3. He'll make contact with Curtis and get sideways, but that will bring Colin Forrester along for the ride to step back in to P4. What a ride it's been for Forrester, who virtually has no other fresh tire competition around him. What a run it's been by the 31 car.
Absolutely. You can see a little bit side by side up in front of them. That is Forrester there beside Hurley for the third position, but they're going to go back to single file now. Again, I'm a little bit surprised. I guess it is down to just knowing how important the track position is, that everybody's fighting this hard with this many laps to go.
And they want to make their positions, present. They want to gain as many as possible. It seems like that seems to be working for these guys up front, despite their tire disadvantage. Here's Gary Sexton in the 13, your race leader, but he is being absolutely swarmed by the 4 car of Chris Shoemaker, and Kevin Hurley about sends the car around at the exit of turn 2. Colin Forrester to possibly pick that spot up inside the top 3. What a job Sexton is doing by defending. It just shows you how much this race could change in an instant. 22nd where he started, he's got clean air in front.
And we heard drivers talk about how different the car feels with the clean air. It makes such a huge difference in your pace and the handling. And I bet especially with the tire wear, I wonder if that's going to make a difference come the end of the race, that if you've got that track position, you're going to be able to hold onto that rubber a lot longer.
And with the way these cars have been so under-serie and tight on the fixed setups, you bet your bottom dollar you'd want to have clean air and have that nose be able to rotate much easier. 3-way fight for a spot inside the top 8. Dustin Reeves trying to play defense on 2 fellow Mustangs around him. Steven Stepien on the inside, trying to look for the 14 of Shoemaker as well. Both of these two the fastest in practice earlier tonight. And boy, has this race turned around for both of them. Shoemaker has been up and down all night long. Stepien has been somewhat on the wrong end of strategy, on the right end on some points. Things have been all over the place. Further up the field, though, here's Forrester looking for second. Looks like he'll get the door shut, though, by the 4 car.
Yeah, he's going to try and keep him behind for now, but Forrester made some good moves on Hurley not long ago and clearly is quite fast right now as he chases him down the front stretch. into turn one. Wonder if for him it's just important to try and clear that floor to make sure that Gary doesn't run away.
And if you're this 31, probably don't want to be super aggressive, as Dakota Curtis found a problem in turn 2 where Reckon got loose in the middle of the corner. Answer is yes. So the 10 car drops 1, 2, almost 3 spots and almost loses at the front nose of the car entering turn 3, as there's Isaac Mock loose in front of them. Stepien has to check up as a result, and he's going to have to get choked up in all this, as he'll have the 14 car on the inside. Three-way fight once more, but this time for 7th.
Yeah, this is where things are looking like they're getting a lot more stacked up, so you got to be careful, tiptoe your way around this. Make sure and be very cognizant of everybody around you, because the situation is just in constant flux here. Good run from Shoemaker down to the inside, but I don't think he's got it done. Oh, maybe he does.
He's got him clear, so the 14 slots into P6. Now the 10 is going to have to work against that 47, and now even more so against his teammate Stepien, who is still trying to get back to the front of the field. And boy, has one season changed everything. He led 117 laps in Season 5's edition of this race and has not led close to it in tonight's event, just being back through the field. If you're Stepien now, what's your mindset? You have to push here harder now that we're in a long green flag run, or no matter what happens around you, just keep things as patient as possible and wait for those passes to come your way?
I think with how fierce the fighting is in, I think he needs to try and push to make those passes, but he also needs to try and do some more risk management. Make sure that you're making those high percentage moves to get those done. Don't try and dive it in. You still got a lot of racing left, and because of the way the cautions have been, I'm pretty certain we're going to be seeing some more of them that'll bunch them back up.
Here's Isaac Mock for Nitro Motorsports. Remember, him and Curtis in that fight for the last spot inside the playoffs. Both of them without a win, but still in range for top 16. Brandon Banks is going to try and have a say in all of this. We haven't really talked much about the driver of the 54, who started tonight in 11th, and that's where he is right now, in the same spot. This has had a quiet but rather successful night, really clean one so far from Gateway, as here's Swavely behind this pack with the 71 of Curtis Kelly. And also of note, Colin Forrester got by to second around Chris Shoemaker, so half a second separates him and your race leader, Gary Sexton.
That onboard really shows how quickly that wall comes up to you on the exit of the corner. Even with a single file exit for him, he was counter steering to try and bring that up and not run into the wall. As they exit out of turns 4, that's a little bit of an easier one. But coming down into 1 once again, you got to watch out. This too wide racing doesn't seem to go well for one of the cars, and it's usually the bottom one, but the 24 clears him.
And Curtis has been struggling on his set of Goodyear Eagles. He's going to either need a caution or just for this bleeding to somehow stop. It's been really tough, and now sandwiched between 2 SKM Motorsports machines. As here comes the 48, Alexander Muscarella, the 24, trying to work on the 32, Richard Swavely at the exit of turn 4. And here is Colin Forrester, the rookie driver, getting closer to your leader now with a faster lap by almost 0.3 of a second when we cross the stripe. He's up by 0.2. Sexton is. Forrester's trying to chop it all away.
And I think this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. He saw Sexton looking like he was pretty good up front, and he felt it was imperative to go by the Forrest Shoemaker. Once he did, just dropped him like a bad habit. Now it's looking a lot more like a battle for the lead. Now, here's where it gets interesting for Forrester. He could try and press the issue now without many laps to go, because like I said, getting the clean air, that could be important. It could give him better tires at the end, so maybe he wants that track position. Or he could just sit and wait for a caution to come out, because I got to think we're, 30 to 25 laps for most of these drivers since they last stopped. Probably going to see everybody pit in here if we get a yellow.
And it's a general consensus, no doubt about it. But then at this stage, do you question, Joe, using 2 tires if we get that yellow and when we get a restart?
I don't know how the car's going to handle on 2. I think I'm going to make the safe call if it was me. Take 4. You're already well up the fields. Might as well not try to throw this away on a silly call unless you've done that practice and actually tried what the 2 tires are going to do. Unfortunately, I don't have that information. So unless one of these drivers has done a practice run like that, I'd say stick with 4.
Right on board with Gary Sexton, the view he's got out of the rear end of his Ford Mustang. And the 31 has practically stalled. He gets loose out of 4, and that's going to hurt his chances of getting to the lead. It's going to balloon to around half a second before turn 1. And that's something that you don't want to do if you're Colin Forrester, Joe Peak, is overpush this car, take yourself out of this race mentally.
Good hands, though, by Forrester, because, I mean, that's a narrow front straight. We've seen in all kinds of series when you start to lose it, there's not much room on the inside to try and bring it back, and he kept it out of the pit wall. That's the important thing. Is now let's check in on Curtis Kelly down here.
And Kelly working in a single file train, and we saw Joseph Mahar stay in front of Wyatt Brackett. I believe it's the highest we've seen the 46 all night long in 7th, and Curtis Kelly, after starting in P18, now just grazing rather the top 10 as the 30 goes underneath the 46. One of the fast banana cars in this field, and we've seen them go from top 4 all clustered together to now fully separated on the racetrack. Forrester in 2nd, you've got Brackett in P7, Curtis Kelly in 11th, and then Austin Reedy further back through the order in P28. So this race has interestingly turned around for the fast banana camp, and look on board with the 30. He is blown by that 46, and no end in sight for him.
Yeah, he and Stempien still trying to catch back up to the front there. Stempien especially, considering he knows he's quick enough to fight for the win. Travis Stevens down here in 25th, though, is kind of sandwiched between Whittington, and behind him is Kip Easley, who's a lapped car. So he doesn't really have to worry about those behind him. He just has to focus forward.
And Whittington started 3rd in this race, and things have really not gone great for him. And boy, there's a gaggle of cars around your top 8 behind Isaac Mock. He just got around that 46. Everyone else is taking their hand in that Ford Mustang to get around him. Here's Banks on the inside. He's going to make contact. He'll slide up into the 71. Somehow they'll keep it straight, but if you're Forrester and Gary Sexton, this is the last thing you want to see happen. That a potential caution almost happening right then and there.
Banks loses a ton of time in that one, as Swavely is going to look to the inside of him a little bit there. But this is getting very interesting at this stage of the race. Still not seeing a yellow, which surprises me a little bit, especially with what we just witnessed right there. It does feel like it's coming eventually. It's more of a question of when.
And this is the portion of the race, Joe, where drivers are probably most susceptible to mistakes. The tires have worn out long enough to the point where you're either dealing with such a tight race car that you can't turn it through the corner, or such a loose race car where you can't plant the throttle without spinning the whole thing around, and then just having traffic around you as they're all struggling behind the wheel. And as the sun sets and as the track continues to change, there are so many moving parts that could build up into a caution flag. There was Steven Stempien weaving his way by Kevin Hurley, who, by the way, Joe, has really struggled on his set of tires. I've seen him lose countless times entering either turn 1 or turn 3. And now here comes Wyatt Brackett for the attack.
Exactly, yeah, and those tires, whoa, and there's a little brush with the wall there for Stempien. I think that we just saw having a little bit of a moment as we watch with Wyatt Brackett over the dashboard. These tires at this stage, especially if these are understeery cars, they're probably getting what we call push loose, where you're cranking that wheel as much as you can to get it to turn, but then by the time you get to the exit of the corner, it finally grips, and you don't want that wheel cranked, and it suddenly wants to snap on you.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and it's most notable here. Turns 1 and 2, watch the rise up the hill, and this small crest that you'll reach before the back straightaway. Right here is where you'll see that push loose thing happen, and that car will snap immediately. For the 25 of Hurley, though, he continues to drop track position, so a top 5 not in the cards for the Budweiser Chevrolet as of right now. Wyatt Brackett moves his way through, and Isaac Mock next up on the tally, although he's been fighting behind the wheel as well physically, and Warren Kyle Keith has been looking for a mistake out of that car. He'll dive to the outside this time through in turn 1. He's got it.
Wow, yeah. Just makes him look like he's standing still, so Mock falls to 9th after that one. And behind him, that actually causes a chain reaction because Kelly had to get out of it, and Muscarella is going to try and take advantage to creep into the top 10. but a big cover off down the inside. The 48, over ambitious, and he's all the way into the wall.
Yeah, he was not going to make that corner. He just cooked it on the brakes, and his car went straight up into the barrier. 54, Brandon Banks almost had that spot made, but did not take advantage as the 24, Warren Kyle Keith, tries to pick off another. That's Kevin Hurley further up the road. Now looking on board with Ray Rogers, who attacks on the 54. And Joe, we've just seen chain reaction after chain reaction. A car struggling on their tires, they get past, and then maybe that triggers another pass when somebody checks up. And things have been really all over the place. And the fun nugget by our producer, Ryan Bauer, Rogers is the current top-running Toyota in the field. Boy, that's some big stuff.
And here's the thing that is going to be so tricky, and if you're one of the those on the box right now, it's making your life a real headache. You don't want to make a green flag stop here, but we're still not seeing this yellow. And while you can get to the end on these tires and on this fuel, I'm pretty certain, do you really want to? The car is going to be probably diabolical by the
Car
end.
sideways, trouble, back straightaway. Lawson Peel, Joseph Mohar.
That answers that question right there. Everybody breathes a sigh of relief that they don't have to try and make that call of who blinks first. And yeah, Lawson Peel, it looked so promising after qualifying, and it just all came apart. Both of them were going to get a little bit loose, and they kind of met in the middle with Mahar there on the top side with not many places to go. The car's going to have a little wiggle, and may have been some ghost contact involved in that too.
Peel, the man who finished second in Season 5 here at Gateway. This race is not looking like a top 5 for him with the way it's turned around for the worse. You'll see it right here. Just a contact between the 46 and the 12. And we mentioned that crest over the hill. That 46 had been struggling with the rear tires. He'd snapped it loose a couple of times. And then gets into the 12, brings him with it to the outside wall. Good avoidance by Garrett Brown. Was right behind all of this, swerved at the right moment. There he goes, whoop, and around he goes.
Yeah, good heads up. That kept him out of trouble. Everybody is down on pit lane. I don't think there's anybody that's willing to try and risk this call. Obviously, those who are lapped down are going to stay out to get those laps back, so you'll see them carry on. But yeah, this is extremely straightforward. Now, who makes the gamble, like you said, and takes 2 tires is a big question mark.
We'll just have to find out. That 13 lifted up the right sides. We wait for the lefts. He's got it. Colin Forrester just got into his pit stall, so we'll see exactly what his call is. It appears to be 4 tires as well. So nobody, at least for the moment, striking for 2. It appears everybody with 4. Forrester will lose the race out of pit road. Gary Sexton's got it, and the 2 Shoemakers round out the top 4.
I see nobody yet that's showing a 9-second stop or so out there. So yeah, I think everybody taking my advice, putting 4 fresh ones on. Yes, the track position. What happened to the 8 there in the background, though?
I'm not entirely sure. There might have been some problems there as, yeah, Kip Easley's around on pit lane. Did he get some help? I believe, yes, he did. Him and James Kunkel actually made contact on the pit lane. We'll fully monitor that incident when we return. Lap 116 currently running through here from Gateway. Gary Sexton, your leader. Don't go anywhere. More coverage on the other side here on Podium Esports.
Janice.
What's up, Doug? Hi, Cheryl. What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Polar. Yeah. Needed F-150 for Smith build. Got it. Yesterday. I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
What I'm really proud is that I own MPI, the steering wheel company, and I'm building the steering wheel. This is my creation. This is yours? Yes. The steering wheel, it's a very unique thing. It's shaped on the hand of Scott Dixon. Yeah. This grip has 27% more grip feel than suede. Scott in the race is gonna make less effort when he drives. When you're in the car, it's like lifting, it's like having 40-pound dumbbell like this, maybe more in the car.
For how long?
3.5 hours. You know, average heart rate in the car, never below 150. Never below 150. You need to be a real athlete to drive. Yeah. They exercise every day. So this is my creation. Amazing. And we did.
What got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Doubled up for the green flag here at lap number 118 of 150, and getting into our final run here from Worldwide Technology Raceway, our gateway to the west. 180. Glad that you're with us on Podium Esports. It's Gary Sexton and Colin Forrester to lead us to action. Pace car makes its way down. We saw these two go at it on a last long run duel, and the 13 gets onto the gas pedal first. We're back under green.
31 kind of went nowhere and almost had a problem there between Shoemaker and Stempien, but thankfully he was heads up and didn't hit him too hard there, just a little bump into the back.
Well, this is tough for Forrester. Got jumped by the 14 of Shoemaker and now has to back out to third. If he fought him any longer, probably would have surged that 13 further ahead of this group. They single file out at around your top 5. First side-by-side battle for P5. Stempien looking onwards with Warren Kyle Keith on the top.
It's been a long day for Stempien, another driver that we've been talking about going up and down the order. He's been a little bit everywhere. And now that he's back up to the top 5 here with 31 to go, I do think he's got a shot, but we've seen him more towards the front before. So this will be interesting to see how much he has to use up to continue to try to get back to that top position.
And now he does not have a tire advantage. We had talked about that being a factor in his run almost all race, but right now he's got even playing field, or even footing rather, with the drivers in front of him, all of them at around 5 laps on their Goodyear Eagles. Forrester is trying to get over that number 4 of, or rather 14 of Austin Shoemaker, has not been able to do it, and boy, he has been planning that pass for the last 2 or so laps, Joe. It's just been a matter of not being able to complete it and probably not wanting to take the risk to have Gary Sexton pull away.
Here's the other thing too, is with 30 to go, there's enough laps that they could chew through a bit of the tires, but they have mostly, for the most part, from what I'm seeing, one set left for pretty much everybody. So they could try and take a gamble. And I got to think that a lot of those in the back will if we get a yellow, because they got nothing to lose. Dive in. The question is, how far up the order will we see that go? Who is willing to potentially sacrifice that track position? Because if you're Gary Sexton and you're in the lead and the yellow comes out after we've had about 15 laps of racing, I don't know what you do in that situation.
Yeah, you're going to be a sitting duck, that's for sure, as the 14 of Shoemaker has been right on his back bumper over the short run. And you looked at that last green flag stint, comparatively, the Sexton car and the Forrester car, both of them were rather equal over the long run. Forrester made some mistakes, lost him a chance at the lead, but he was almost the same lap time-wise as that 13. You can reckon both of them are probably saving their stuff. But with the long run that you had just mentioned, Joe, at around under 28 laps to go, 14 of Shoemaker try to go to the bottom. Sexton shut the door, and he might just get set into turn 3.
And this is the difficulty here of them trying to shift gears. You could see he was both trying to handle the wheel with one hand and shift at the same time, which can unsettle the car. But the 14 is going to get the inside, and once again, the leaders are going to come together. Wow, they held it out. Somehow the 14 into the grass does not hit him, but the 31 says, thanks for that. That's going to give me that P2 back.
That could have been disastrous out of your top 2, but wheelman efforts out of both the 14 and the 13. They keep their cars collected, and we stay under green flag circumstances. But how much did that affect the 13th performance? We'll just have to find out as here Stepien door banging the 4 of Shoemaker in a turn 1.
Yeah, Shoemaker was given a big hurry up to the 14 as well. Or, excuse me, Shoemaker on Shoemaker, actually. So that was Chris on Austin as he pushed him forward. But unfortunately, that slowed the 4 enough that Stepien has managed to pass him. He's now into P4, so that's 1 more up for him. And Gary Sexton looking like he's feeling it. He's making some really harsh moves here to try and hold people back. I don't blame him. This is where you really got to start turning it up.
That lap was a little slower out of Sexton, 34.608 comparative to Forrester's 34.446. That 31 is hard charging and pressed on getting to the race lead. He's got a good run out of turn 2. The question is, does he make use of it? He tries, he dives for turn 3. We're side by side for the lead.
Down to the inside a little bit, but it's not much overlap. It's hard to try and finish that pass here off of 3 and 4. He's going to at least hold on to him as they fly back into turn 1. Oh, this is going to be tough. That inside line has just not worked well for anybody tonight.
They both keep it clean. Now they make contact. That 13 is trying his dearest to stay up front, and he concludes the pass. He stays in the lead. And Shoemaker, Stepien, they might just settle it out for third, but they haven't made any drastic moves as of yet. Now, if you're Forrester, do you up the aggression and force that 13 into a mistake, or do you methodically just try again, coming to 23 laps to go?
I think he's got plenty of time right now. I think you don't need to make silly moves. Keep the pressure on. Just stay right under that rear bumper. Get him to make the mistake that'll open the door for you so that you can make the pass without having to really chuck the car to the inside. Just like this, you can see he's got a good run. He's going to be able to get down inside him now and get the overlap. Now he's just got to finish the job.
We'll try to dip it down low. Shoemaker and Stepien watching on as they make contact again. And the 13 almost tags the wall. Boy, what a battle we're seeing here from Worldwide Technology Raceway. Back to turn 1. Does Forrester have the advantage? No, but he almost slides into the 13 in the middle of the apex.
The more they battle, the more they're going to chew up the tires as well. Watch out for Shoemaker behind them. Austin kind of waiting in the wings, and no count out Stepien as Forrester has to give it up again. I think he's got to finish this pass in 3 and 4, because if he's on the inside down into 1, unless he's really far up alongside him, it's just not enough to finish it out through 1 and 2.
But he has to be really careful on the gas pedal, because remember, in that last long green flag run, he had a good run off the corner until he about threw the run away when he got loose and kicked out the rear end. But meanwhile, this is reeling in the other pair of cars in this group, the 14 of Shoemaker and the 81 of Stepien. Now here comes Forrester once more as Sexton wipes the sweat off his brow.
Much farther alongside. Is he going to chuck it in? Yes, he does. This time he's fully clear, but will we see the cutback? No, the 14's on the inside of Sexton and catches him out. He's going to shove him down the order.
Sexton got absolutely pushed out of the way. He'll drop to 5th, and maybe even 6th. He'll try to shut the door on Wyatt Brackett, and now the lead is handed over to rookie Colin Forrester's. We're 3 wide for P4.
Brackett way up into the gray. Yeah, he's going to lose a ton of spots with that one and barely keeps it off the wall, even if he does brush it slightly, but he'll get away with it. So now they go back to single file for a little bit. What's this mean for both Austin and Steven back there in P2 and P3 as we watch from WKK?
That's a good question there. What does the 81 of Stepien do? What does the 14 of Shoemaker do? Are they going to try and just get to the 31 and then unleash all of their wrath at around 17 laps to go? Or will this just turn into Forrester pulling away and getting his first career Sunoco Cup Series win? We've already seen it happen multiple times in Season 6. You talk about big stories. Aaron Adcock, the winner at Dega, and then came in Jesse Whittington, his win at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Brandon Banks with his W at Dover Motor Speedway earlier in the year. First-time winners have been familiar so far in 2023. Can we see it again as Sexton goes toe-to-toe with Wyatt Brackett for P5?
And Isaac Mock's got a nice view of it all. They're going to bang doors once again I wonder if Sexton just used it up a little too much there, racing side by side, because he seems like he's really vulnerable now. Wyatt's going to see if he can finish it up down to 3 and 4.
And this 13 has seen the lead pretty much ripped away from his grasp, and he's going to have to make use of what he's got. He'll grab the curbing though on the left side of the track. He'll get hit by the 71, and they'll stack it up, but somehow will stay green, and now we're 3 wide almost as Isaac Mock pins it to the bottom.
2 by 2 by 2 down into the corner. Yeah, everybody is turning up the wick here. They know it's go time. They know if there's positions to be had and they see a limping car, they got to pounce.
And they have fallen off drastically out of the rest of your top 5. Sexton and Kelly are probably not happy with each other entering turn 3. Sexton will get hit again, this time by Isaac Mock. Boy, that 13 has gone through hell and back right now. The 13 loose again and hit by the 11. And sideways goes the 47 into the inside wall, catches the 10, gets more cars in it, and that is a caution with 16 laps to go.
Oof, how many got caught up in this is the big question, because there's a number of cars still behind them. So let's take a second look at it. I see the 32, the 47. Looks like Joseph Mahar in the 46 also a part of it.
It's a shame for Richard Swavely, who had spent this race progressing through the field. And just on the unlucky end of this situation, gets sent into the inside wall with the 47 of Isaac Mock. And just we saw it, started off with the 11 of Rogers, getting the wall in turn 4, coming back down the track into the 13, and then getting the outside wall again before stacking some others in it. See the 46, Joseph Mahar getting a hard lick into the inside wall. And here's the third perspective from Curtis.
And I have some big news. Remember I said it was, if it's 15 to go and we get yellow, it's a hard choice. Forrester is finding that out. Everybody behind him so far is ducking in for fresh tires. He's been hung out to dry.
And that will leave Forrester out front with nobody in line. And he's going to have to stick with this call no matter what if he wants to keep track position well intact. Everybody else has come in, and now the question resides, do you take 4 or do you take 2? We know, Joe Peak, that this race in terms of fuel is pretty much done for. You know you can make it to the end of this race on gas. Goodyear Eagles, rubber, grip, that's going to be the biggest case and the biggest difference between winning and losing. I see the 14 going up for right sides. Now for left sides, it appears 4 tires for a bulk of the field.
Yeah, and coming out first, it's going to be Austin Shoemaker ahead of Gary Sexton, who went for 2 tires, so he's going to take the gamble. We'll see how that plays out. There's others that decided to join Colin Forrester, who were towards the back of the field. Whittington stayed out, and Travis Stevens stayed out, but they've got 20 laps on those tires at this point, so they're going to be feeling it.
And this is going to be big, and not that much of a buffer either to those 4th on back. Shoemaker leading this group for Sexton on 2 tires in the middle of all this. That's going to be the most interesting scenario in all of this, because he's not leading nor further back at the tail. He is right in the middle. One of those to stay out with your leader, Colin Forrester, is last week's winner, Jesse Whittington, who joins us now. Jesse, you make this call. I know this race hasn't been as kind to you so far this evening. What was the reason behind this call, and what's your mindset now around 12 laps to go?
If I'm being real honest, just hold on. My car is fairly heavily damaged, so I don't have any more tires. I really have nothing left to lose. I mean, I know track position is king here, so kind of hoping that, you know, I can just kind of plant my car where they need to go and just hope that I don't get ran over. So it's just going to be a game of holding on and salvaging at this point.
Just trying to hold on to what you've got here, and you're one of 3 cars to stay out on this run. And again, we're just over 10 laps to go. Are you going to expect a caution fest from here on out that could probably save your track position, or do you see this race going green?
I mean, if I really want to save my track position, I really got to hope for a caution fest, but I really don't want to hope for a caution fest. I'd like to just go green and get this thing over with, because it's been a race of track position all night, and I have not had the track position. Hadn't been very fun, but we're just going to see what we can do here, and restarting on the bottom next to Colin and see if I can get a decent restart and hold on for something decent here.
Well, hopefully this race turns around in your favor, Jesse. We appreciate the time as always, and best of luck on the restart. Go get him.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and thanks to Strafe Nation for being here as always. I'll talk to y'all later, hopefully.
Jesse Whittington lining up second on this restart with around 10 laps to go. Sun has set here in Madison, Illinois. Colin Forrester, your leader. Whittington in second. Austin Shoemaker in the last step of the podium. Travis Stevens is fourth. Stempien rounds out the top 5. And then goes Gary Sexton, Chris Shoemaker, Wyatt Brackett, Curtis Kelly, and Warren Kyle Keith. First through P2, actually. Travis Stevens is still here. So first through third, all stayed out. Everybody behind them with 4, other than Gary Sexton, who's got 2 on his Ford Mustang. There's our entire driver wall before we get the green for what might be the last time. Telemetry tells us 7 minutes if we stay green all the way to the finish. Will this call work for Forrester and company? We'll have to find out. Pace car is down. The 31 gets the gas pedal with 11 laps to go.
And he gets a good jump up there. Whittington doesn't really have much of an answer. And they've also got Austin Shoemaker trying to come around the outside very quickly. Austin looks like a bullet there.
Austin already gets to the outside of the 94. He's got P2. Car around in the middle of the field. That's Kevin Hurley. And we'll have another restart.
Oh, he's going to get another hit there from the 7 of Chris Progar, who's already laps down, many laps down. So that's just insult to injury on that one.
We'll take a look at how it all happened. It appears it was a hip check between himself and the 54 of Brandon Banks. Just a tough scenario, Joe. And once you make that contact in the middle of the corner like that, it's so hard to get it back right in.
Yeah, they're on the edge. The tires have cooled down. So they're trying hard to, well, they're fresh, if anything. So there's no heat in the tires. So the car is going to be a handful. The 12 of Lawson Peel got a little bit of it, but I think he'll get away without too much damage. He's been through the wars today himself, and that's going to leave him in 12th position. Shoemaker is up to second now. He is the highest on those fresh tires. He has 1 car to pass, and he's only going to have about 8 laps to do it.
Well, the good thing is he's got that track position. Shoemaker does. And then everybody else had just kind of filed themselves through. They did get around Travis Stevens and all this, who fell back to P6. But nonetheless, it's going to be a really tough restart for that 31 on the sitting duck position. And it's so hard when you're a guy like Forrester in this spot, because you spent a good amount of this race trying to get to the front. When you finally have that accomplishment, you get a caution at probably the worst part of the run. And then you have everybody behind you come in when you can't predict it, because you're the one leading this race and that pace car isn't going in at all. So it's a really tough scenario. And for Forrester, who's just this close to his first career Sunoco Cup Series win, it's got to be a tough predicament behind the wheel.
Yeah, it's like he said, you don't want it, because we're all race fans here, and you know it's no fun to see it go that way. But he also wants that win, and he knows his best chance is to see it finish under yellow, but that's going to take a long time, and it's going to be grueling to get there. And he still has to get good starts to stay ahead of Austin Shoemaker and Steven Stempien and Gary Sexton here. Well, Gary Sexton not so much, since he's on 2 tires. But he's actually didn't seem to lose much there on the restart, but we didn't really see them get up to full song yet.
And for Forrester, you're probably going to hope for this race to maintain under yellow for as long as possible. If you've got less laps to run under green, chances are you might have a better chance overall of just maintaining that spot. We'll get 7 laps to go, and the lights are still on in the iRacing official pace car, so we'll get another lap, and we'll just try and settle this thing through as the sun sets here at Gateway. Let's talk for a little bit, Joe, about what's up to come here on the schedule. We've got Gateway tonight, and boy, this race has been a lot to deal with already, detail-wise, and talks about points and possible winners that are in collaboration so far at the front. And now we head to Watkins Glen after tonight, and then we go to Daytona International Speedway to close off the regular season. I mean, if you're any one of these guys, I mean, you're probably not thinking about Watkins Glen now, but to be upcoming in the regular season, it's going to be big for these guys.
Indeed. And Watkins Glen, like I said, is a specialty track with it being a road course. It is still a pretty short lap, you know, in road course terms and in general. It goes by very, very quickly. And then Daytona is just going to be, you know, everybody's on the same setup, so it's more about good decision making and kind of hold on and pray in there. From there, though, it's kind of back to more traditional stuff. Nashville, Atlanta, Texas, that's going to be a big relief, but it won't last long, because then we go right to Pocono, and the Tricky Triangle is definitely a love or hate sort of situation.
Yeah, and then we go back to Richmond for the second time this year. Ross Harlow won that race. And then we go to Michigan, which we really haven't seen any one of these big 2-mile tracks. Auto Club is nowhere to be found in 2023's edition of the Sunoco Cup Series. So Michigan throws itself in the ring super late, right before we get our Championship 4 race at Homestead Miami Speedway in mid-August. So safe to say the oddballs aren't quite done being thrown at the field yet. There's so many factors that are still left in this 2023 season. We'll update you on the Big Bracket Challenge. Parker Bland and Justin Erb, they were at battle going into tonight's race. Justin Erb currently back in 29th, Parker Bland in 19th, so it appears the 18 will move on as long as she can hold on to the spot. Ross Harlow, who has been taken out of this race, will have his Big Bracket Challenge run end here. Stempian will move on as he's currently 3rd. Warren Kyle Keith and Jesse Whittington, that might be still to be decided. Warren Kyle Keith is in 9th on fresh tires. Whittington is on old tires in 4th. And as we said, Dakota Curtis, no matter what, will advance to the next round, the semifinal one at Watkins Glen. Green flag out with 6 laps to go from Gateway. Forrester out front.
Gets a decent jump, but he's still got Austin down there. I'd watch that inside. He's going to have to shut the door early here, and he tries to, but he does not. And he's going to try to get to the inside. If he keeps him pinched down, I think he's going to be okay. Gives him a little bit of a hip check, and as they accelerate, he did not do enough. This is bad news. I think Austin has the advantage.
But look at the run built up by the 81 of Stempian, who's going to help Forrester entering turn 3. That keeps the 31 car in the lead for a split second, but not for long. Shoemaker powers on the bottom and takes the lead.
Oh, wow, and that car is hurting behind him. Whittington also having trouble. Just no grip is down to the inside. That's Gary Sexton trying to make good on his track position he got with the 2 tires.
The heartbreak is real for Forrester as the 4 car slams the outside wall. Shoemaker holding up 3 wide for a moment with Garrett Brown and Lawson Peel. Meanwhile, Sexton goes at it side by side with Jesse Whittington. Stempian tries to look onwards to your race leader. We'll catch 4 laps to go, this time by.
This is the point of no return. If we get a yellow, it's going into overtime from here. And what do you know? The 26 of Logan Sturgeon has an issue and is going to bring it out.
And we are going into overtime from Gateway. Logan Sturgeon, the most recent car in trouble. We'll take a peek at how this all happened.
I think he gets tipped around here. And he tried to save it. He was doing his best. He does not want to be the one to bring this out and take it into overtime. But it snapped back on him. He almost caught the drift, but the tires are not feeling right. It is cooler, so you're not as used to the conditions, especially since we haven't had as much green flag racing now that the sun is going down. And thankfully, it only involved him, and nobody else got collected. But that sends him to the back, and that re-racks us now for a 2-lap dash to the finish.
Now, that could have been almost a save by Sturgeon, but that car whipped around to the right so quickly. Here's another look at what happened in turn 3. You see Kunkel slides up, and right there, that left front just locked up for a moment. You don't see the smoke come out of it, but you see the rotation slow down. That's him locking it up because he's trying to hold on to the brakes and make the corner. Just gets up into the 26. The pace car picks the field up, and the 14 of Austin Shoemaker has the lead into what will be our first of 3 green-white checkered attempts. Man, Joe, I mean, how many green-white checkered attempts have we seen over this season? I feel like we've seen a lot. I'm not sure how many exactly, but there's been a good amount, and they have really changed the complexion of these races a lot.
Yeah, it's been kind of the nature of the beast that you've done all the work, but when it comes down to the end, you need a good short-run car to try and blast your way to the win on these 2-lap dashes. Watch out for Steven Stempien. I think he is going to be aggressive on Shoemaker. I think Austin's going to have to shut the door quickly here and make sure that he's got that position away at the starts so that Steven can't try and take this side by side, which he still will if we can manage to get down to the white flag. But I think Stempien knows he's got a fast car underneath him. He knows he's got a weapon, and he's willing to use it.
He started in P4, and he's been fast all night long. There's no doubt about it. It's just been a matter of track position, which has somewhat plagued this 81 in the past couple of races. I think to Darlington a couple of weeks back as the biggest example of that, where he started the race on the pole, had led 41 laps, the most out of anyone in that race. And then things just didn't go his way. Got caught up in a crash, got put back through the field, and came home 15th. This race could be one that redeems all the wrongs that happened at Darlington earlier in the season, and might be on his way to a second race win in 2023. Austin Shoemaker has not been to victory lane. If he wins tonight, he will become the 10th different winner of season 6. Stempien is looking to become the second driver out of the field so far to have 2 wins on the year. He'll join Mario Miranda, and then Wyatt Brackett, Colin Forrester, Gary Sexton. All these guys without wins, you have to go back to Curtis Kelly and Jesse Whittington, and even then, Brandon Banks, the third car in it, to find winners so far this season in the latter half of the top 10.
So let's see if they're going to send him around 2 more times, or if this is going to be lights out on the pace car here. It does look like Stempien wants it to be one to go. He's pulling up alongside already there along the front stretch. And lights are indeed out. We're going to go racing next time by.
We will have 3 attempts at a green-white checkered ending here from Gateway. Our first attempt coming up now. We'll explain the rules for you. We'll have a restart with 2 laps to go. Leaders will try to get to the white under green. If a caution does come out, we will restart the race and try to do it all over again. And we'll have 3 opportunities to do just that. If the attempts are exhausted, then the leader at the timing of the 3rd and final caution is going to be decided the winner. However, if the leader does get to the white flag, this race is official no matter what. Shoemaker has the outside of row 1, Stempien on the bottom, Wyatt Brackett, Colin Forrester, those doubled up in row number 2, 3rd and 4th. Gary Sexton in P5. 6th place will go to Curtis Kelly, 7th to Jesse Whittington, 8th to Brandon Banks, 9th and 10th, Lawson Peel and Warren Kyle Keith. Can Shoemaker hold on for his first win of the season, or can Stempien take his second? We'll just find out. Attempt number 1 at green-white checkered territory. Pace car is down, and as they creep towards the restart zone, it is all in the control and discretion of the 14. Green flag in the air.
He did a great jump on that restart. He's got to hope that it stays green from here, because that's about the most ideal restart he could have gotten.
That was a perfect jump to turns 1 and 2. Stempien has no response. He's going to have to build it in the next lap or so, or hope that a caution comes out. They are almost 3 wide near the back of the field, side by side and around your top 5. Gary Sexton, Brandon Banks going at it for P6, but as they wrap around turn 4, Shoemaker looks for the white flag.
Just a few feet. They're fanning out behind them, but they don't wreck. That's it. We're going to the finish.
Stempien will have a couple of more corners to get this pass complete and to win this race. He is within 0.2 of a second on the back straightaway. They're side by side, still at around your top 10. And Stempien will have one more opportunity in turn 3. A big dive. He'll give them up to the 14. He'll slide him up the track, side by side into turn 4. It's not quite done yet. Steven Stempien steals the race in overtime and wins from Gateway.
Wow, an aggressive bump. I thought he was going to completely turn him, and somehow Shoemaker held on to it. but man, he was on top of it, and he was leaning on that thing, because coming out of turn 2, I could see the wheel spin, I could see the rear wiggle, and he was not taking no for an answer.
Steven Stempien uses up the 14's back bumper and wins from Worldwide Technology Raceway. It is his second win of season 6, and that ties in for most wins on the year with Mario Miranda at 2. And that took a long time for us to get to that point, but Steven Stempien in the 81 will celebrate down the front straightaway and brings you tonight's Sunoco winning moment. More high-performance racing engines rely on Sunoco race fuels than all others combined. For over 50 years, Sunoco has been fueling the top race car drivers around the world with high-quality performance fuels they can trust to power them to the checkered flag. Sunoco, fueling victories from track to tank.
That was one of the most unique celebrations I think I've seen, using the pit wall to try and do the burnout. He's happy about it, though, celebrating. But I think we have a replay of what happened, so let's take another look at it. Well, I mean, what do you think, Kenneth? Do you think this is all fair, or do you think he took a little too far on this?
Oh, I'm not sure. I mean, these cars have bumpers, and I've heard a quote from somebody, if they got bumpers, you got to use them. And Stempien does a nice job of not fully dumping Shoemaker in this corner, because it can be really easy to do that. With the way he dove into that corner, it's just trying to use him up. He just pushes him up the track, Joe. I'm not sure about you. It looks to me like typical bump and run. It seemed rather clean. No retaliation from the 14, and Stempien wins.
Had to hit him twice to get it done, which is interesting. So that car was pretty rock solid. That just tells you how much Austin wanted it.
Well, Steven Stempien grabs the win in the first and only attempt of overtime. Post-race coverage on the other side here on Podium Esports. We've got more of the Sunoco Cup Series after this.
What got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
Fuller. Yeah. Needed F-150 for Smith build. Got it. Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
Hi guys, today me and Moose welcome to my extremely formal presentation of my two latest creations, the MPI Sync Chassis and the MPI Foldable Stand. When I created the MPI chassis, I wanted to have everything included, what it means. So in the MPI chassis, I wanted to have everything you need besides the electronics. So it has the keyboard tray, mouse tray, adjustability, TV stand, computer stand, super stiff pedal assembly, a seat that if you want, if you don't have a lot of space, you can fold it. If you have limited space, I solved your problem. The MPI wheel stand, you can use any component you want on it, and at night, fold in half, very limited space, and you can put it away. You can use your own chair, your own TV, problem solved.
Janice.
What's up, Doug? Hi, Cheryl. What got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. We've been doing it for American racing for over 50 years. Fuel your best.
For the second time this season, Steven Stepien is victorious, and boy, this was a dramatic finish here from Worldwide Technology Raceway. Our full unofficial results from the Gateway to the West. 180, it is the 0G Ford Mustang of Steven Stepien getting win number 2 of 2023. Austin Shoemaker got sent turns 3 and 4, moved up the track and tried to fight back, but it was no match for the 81. He comes home in second. Wyatt Brackett, a quiet run in those last 2 laps to wrap up the top 3. Curtis Kelly and Colin Forrester, some of the Fast Banana teammates, finished 3rd through 5th. Lawson Peel recovers after a poor middle of the race where things really got unlucky for him. He comes home in that 6th place position. Gary Sexton ends up 7th from 22nd on the grid tonight. Brandon Banks is P8. Garrett Brown to move up to 9th from 32nd when we drop the green at lap number 1. And Warren, Kyle Keith, Joe Peak wraps up the top 10.
Chris Shoemaker was 11th as Ryan Kendall was 12th. Then you've got Dakota Curtis and P13. Ray Rogers, who did not set a qualifying time, went from 33rd to 14th, but poor Jesse Whittington, who was on the second row at the start, has to settle for 15th after he ran out of tires at the end and could not take them to help him get to the finish. Travis Stevens was 16th and Aaron Adcock was 17th. Then you've got Isaac Mock in P18. Parker Bland only up a few spots to get 19th as Austin Reedy winds up in 20th.
Alex Muscarella in the 48 will arrive in 21st. Dustin Reeves behind him in 22nd after starting 34th. Charles Phelps will bring up the top 23. Logan Sturgeon caught up in some crashes tonight. He's 24th. Richard Swavely behind him in 25th. James Kunkel 26th. Joseph Mohart 27th. Justin Erb, Kevin Hurley, and Bill Schoonover round out the rest of your top 30. And that was 27 cars that made it through this race on the lead lap. Kip Easley is 31st, Chris Progar 32nd, Brad Fulham, Judd Danielson, Ross Harlow, and Justin T. Miller wrap up the 36-car field as the sun sets here from Worldwide Technology Raceway. Time to bring in the man who occupies victory lane, not just for tonight, but for the second time in Season 6 of the Sunoco Cup Series. We bring back in the number 81, Steven Stepien. And Steven, how did you pull off that move in turns 3 and 4? What was it like through all that?
Just knew I had pretty good entry speed. I was able to close the gap on him pretty good on the last couple of laps there, and I knew I was going to be able to have something for him there. And I obviously, I'm not a dirty racer. I just gave him the old rattle his cage a little bit like Dale Sr. would have done to win a race. So it's just a little tiny bump, move him up the track, and just try to get that win. That's what I was looking forward to tonight.
And how good does it feel to see this race turn around the way it has? Because you started tonight in 4th, you had a shot at the lead, you against Ross Harlow. It felt like that was going to be the fight all night long. And then this race turns on its head. You find yourself in the mid-pack. You find yourself working through traffic lap by lap by lap. And to find yourself back up front, just how rewarding is it to get in that situation and to get the win out of all things here?
Oh, definitely. Those type of wins feel good, especially battling back with all the different strategies tonight. Those Fast Banana guys had a really good strategy tonight, coming in before the first stage, and they were able to hold up front really well. And, I just got caught in the mid-pack, and, then it happened again on the second stage where a couple of guys stayed out, and I was like, oh, here we go again. But just kept my cool, man. Just stayed patient, and I knew I was strong here, and there was a couple of guys that were strong here too. Obviously Austin was really strong here all race. I was stuck behind him a few times trying to get by him, but he was doing a good job closing the door. 20, 30 laps left, but I knew where I was going to beat him. I knew where I was strong, and that was in the entry in 3 and 4. But man, I'm happy, man. Me, get a multiple win. It's been a quiet season with all these guys winning races. All these different guys. Was used to last season where it was me, Mario, and Lawson winning all the races. So it's good to see. It's good to see a lot of other guys winning. But pretty pumped. And fortunately, Mario couldn't make it tonight, so I got the points lead. I'll take it. I love it.
A lot of good momentum heading into Watkins Glen next week, and we'll talk about that. I mean, we might have to call you the King of Gateway. You won here back in Season 5 with the 200-lap race. You'll win here this evening. Still undefeated at Worldwide Technology Raceway. But let's talk about Watkins Glen and Daytona next up. I mean, you're already locked in. You've got the points lead. How much positive momentum does this give you, and confidence-wise as well, heading into playoff time?
Definitely a lot. I just want to go into the playoffs. I'm taking the regular season championship because Lawson did that last season, and he ended up winning the whole thing. So I think that's a huge advantage, taking the regular season championship. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything because of the playoffs, but get some momentum, and I'm looking forward to Watkins Glen. I'm not really good at road courses, but I can manage the top 10, top 5 here and there. So hopefully it goes well. Take this win and go into next week, just ride smooth and hit my marks and get a top 5.
Well, hey, you're also in the semifinals for the Big Bracket Challenge, so that's some good news too. So a win and then the advancement to the next round. Good things all around, Steven. We appreciate the time. We're going to let you celebrate your win here from the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Congratulations on behalf of all of us at Podium Esports, and we'll see you at Watkins Glen next week.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys, and happy birthday to my beautiful wife out there. Happy Blade. If yesterday was her birthday, got a win for you, babe. Love you, Pops. You too. See you guys later. See you next week.
Happy belated birthday as Steven Stepien wins his second race of season number 6. We'll bring in the driver on the other end of this thing, the 14 of Austin Shoemaker, Joe Peak.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what Austin has to say about that finish because Austin Stevens seems to think that all was good on that. What's your feelings? Are you upset about the bump and run, or is that just racing?
A little bit of both. I mean, given the situation that Stempien's already locked into the playoffs, and I was pretty much needing a win to secure myself. I can't say I would have done the same thing in his shoes. I mean, it is racing. It wasn't really a dirty move, but can't say I would have done the same thing.
That's understandable. It was an interesting end to the race. We had said on the air when we had that caution with a little bit more than 30 to go that if we get another one about halfway, that's going to be a tough call. And you're among those top drivers that were able to sneak in to get the fresh rubber. Do you think that made the difference to get you up on the podium?
Oh, absolutely. I was starting to use my stuff up there. I feel like Stempien had saved his stuff a little better than me. So obviously Colin was battling pretty well up there, and he was tough to catch. So I was just hoping that everybody else would follow me into the pits there, and it looked like pretty much the entire field did, besides about 3 or 4 of them. So definitely paid off in the long run.
Well, as you mentioned, it's down to the wire now to get up to there. Considering your position in the championship, you pretty much need a win. What are your road course and super speedway chops like?
I'm about average, maybe slightly above average on road courses. Obviously, I was really banking on a win tonight to secure me a spot. So it looks like pretty much my main hope is to go into Daytona here in a couple weeks and hopefully get the luck of the draw in that one. So we'll see.
Well, commiserations. I understand your emotions on this one. Still a second place, well earned tonight, your first top 5 of the season.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'd just like to give a shout out to my teammates, my friends and family that tune in each and every week. And obviously, I want to give you guys a big thank you for broadcasting this and putting on a great show each and every week.
Thank you very much. That was Austin Shoemaker in the number 14, getting second place. While I believe that we're going to head back to you, Kenny.
Indeed so, and talk about Austin Shoemaker's past performances at both Watkins Glen and Daytona. I was looking back in the logs. Last season, he finished this race in 4th, or Watkins Glen race in 4th. He's won at Daytona before. That came courtesy of the first race back in season 4. So who knows? I mean, although this is a defeat at the end of the day, things might turn around and he might end up with a playoff spot after all. But Joe, I want to touch on one of the points that Stempien brought up in that winning interview, the difference in strategies. Boy, did we see a lot of those tonight.
Yeah, and I love races like that because when it's an easy strategy call, it kind of makes it straightforward. You can still have exciting races, but when the strategies are all over the place, you get a giant question mark. And the fun thing about sport is that we don't know what's going to happen. That's what I think made this a great race tonight.
And now that question mark moves over to upstate New York because Watkins Glen's going to be next on the calendar. Our last road course I think that we'll ever see in the rest of 2023's Season 6 schedule. What do the drivers have to do to make the most out of that one?
practice. Get out there, especially if you don't consider yourself as strong at road courses. There's so many little things that you can find. The more laps that you're going to be doing out there and figuring out what the car can do. And most of all, on road courses, you got to preserve the tires, especially with Watkins Glen having a lot of long, fast corners. They're going to chew them up. So you got to figure out how to drive it clean and drive it fast.
It's a very fast one. Watkins Glen next up, and that'll be the start of only 2 races left until we close off the regular season and decide those 16 that make the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. Steven Stepien wins his 2nd race of the campaign, ties Miranda for the most of the season so far. And as Stepien continues his celebrations from Worldwide Technology Raceway, we will wrap up our coverage right here on Podium Esports. A big thank you to Dakota Curtis and all the admins at the Sunoco Cup Series for all their hard work. For Gary Sexton and John Theodore at Podium Esports, and for our broadcast team tonight. For Ryan Bauer, our producer, our camera creator, Dougie Beard, and for my colleague in the booth, Joe Peak, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long from Gateway. We'll see you at Watkins Glen 1 week from tonight.